Users are looking for what she wants to the perfect time to sit down. Which is a double meaning because meetings are the same people. So you see how the character builds and creates the next character? So we're doing a develop curriculum, but at the same time, because he's bullied, we're doing an anti-bullying curriculum. Health eating curriculum. He's a social media and video game junkie, so that's going to be a social interactive communication curriculum. She's a kleptomaniac, so that's work and ethics. She's super sexual, so it's being rights. So that's dating and values. So you see how all the characters are being used in real life instances to be able to to where it's not just entertainment. It's teaching things in a way that they'll be more receptive to receive it. And there's a lot of complexity to it that it could be beneficial in a lot of different ways.
It addresses concepts that I know overindulging.
Right.
Especially newer generations. My parents, they deal with there's so much control to everything.
When we were kids, parents were parents, and nowadays tablets and TVs are parents. And well, nowadays, both parents have to work, for the most part. So they're not there to educate the kids, see after everything that they do. So something like this is needed because it will teach those things that are taught. TV and the entertainment business glorifies sex, drugs, violence, all these different things. And this shows it isn't really is. It's that it's negative. And so we use the villains in that light. So, but it's not cheesy. It's not necessarily good for little kids because of the storyline. So the villains came up with a mad scientist whose name was Dr. Rakuza. Rakuza was actually a sugar spell factors. He invents a sugar-based substance that is highly addictive, brought the teeth very fast, that he infuses into candy sodas, building up things that are already bad for us. The villains give those things to people without them knowing it, causes them to become addicted to them. The good guys aren't just fighting against bad people, they're fighting against the people that are serving to the villains to do their bidding, to do their So you see, it's got a terrorist storyline, which is very important.
That's what's needed to get
right. It's based on fact, though. Sugars are addictive. High fructose corn syrup, if you drink a lot of sodas and you don't brush your teeth, literally so, it's all based on fact. Just more entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. It's needed.
So the reason that I came to this, I came into a capital factory, and since I was here, I wanted to see what else was going on. I'm planning to do this in Spanish as well, and so I figured, well, why not see about sending it down to Central and South America, because I'm going to do it in Spanish anyway. The reason that I had the whole idea is because my friend's dad owns a little magazine in Mexico City called Unimportance, and I have the opportunity to bring it to the United States and make it bilingual and expand it. I just decided this is my passion. I was working for a homeless shelter, and I had the opportunity to expand the dental magazine. The homeless shelter is faith-based. My boss was always and just worked for myself in the dental magazine. So I prayed about it, and I wanted to do something to tie in with the homeless support with the dental theme and the original vision of faith. And that's where it all started. And this can be used for homeless because they usually have reading and comprehension levels. So using entertainment to educate them would be something that would be, could be successful for homeless.
That's really cool. Like, for the dentist, they'll give us just something that deal with all different dentists and stuff they do. But this has never struck my mind until now. I'm a sports science major. I'm really, there's one thing I want to do in my life is Hispanics, obesity, diabetes. It's huge. It's most prevalent.
And that's especially if they're genetically predisposed to diabetes and a lot of these heart diseases and other issues that are connected with that.
Indirectly, when you take out those, when people are at least educated about like these sugars, that alone is going to help. Indirectly, it starts at the
Yes.
Well, I really like this. It's entertaining.
I have a website. I have an app. See, in addition to doing the paper comic, I'm doing a digital animated version. This is mine, it's a medical-based comic, but I'm doing the same thing where there's a narrator, music, special effects, voice acting. So it's a comic that is just much more accessible, so you just download it. And of course, the company will produce that. And if so I'm doing the digital version of the comic, but I have plans for doing educational films, animated films, and even full feature films, emergency films. Because of the storyline and it can really
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. You know, it's a little more edgy.
Yeah.
Dig forward, takes you to
right. And that's why it's so different from VeggieTales. Yeah, right. And they're really cheesy for little kids. Now, the basic form of this, yes, it is for little kids. But because there's so much complexity to it, the curriculum that we're going to develop, the films and everything else that we're doing, can be tailor-made for older audiences. So there's a lot of potential with this. I just need the funding to get going. I've got investors that are interested, but they want to see that I'm making cells. I can't make cells until I have everything fully protected. And so I'm gradually, getting things trademarked as I can. But if I have the funding to get everything fully developed, I'm actually developing a curriculum that makes TEKS, Texas Extension Knowledge and Skills, where teachers can use our materials in the classroom to teach these things. Now there's something called Catch that is pretty big. It's all over the nation. They're like in 30-something states. But Catch is something that teaches on health, hygiene, and different things in a meaningful way, but it's like really cheesy and boring. Yeah. This is something that is going to be fun and exciting because of not only is it based on real life and related, but it's funny. The characters are funny because of the quirks that they have. Yeah. The fat guy steals food and candy from people. I mean, it's more entertaining.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Never thought of other. I'm from Los Angeles. I moved here about 4.5 years ago on my own, and I have a cousin out here. And I go to school, but they just noticed that like public school, they try to spend less and less and less money. It's hard to say, hey, let's start spending money.
They have budgets for stuff like this. For Catch, schools actually have budgets to use that to teach things in a meaningful way just because parents aren't doing it. So they have to have materials that do those things. But kids don't really like it. It's just for the little bit of kids. The plans that I have for the curriculum is to, I explain the characters, how most of them work. I'm also going to do discussion type where does TV and media portray, sex work environments in a way that makes us more prone to repeat those cycles. Does we can discuss Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how if different needs aren't met, we're more prone to do bad things to try to meet those needs in a negative way. Try to fill those gaps, in a negative way. So there's a lot of things that can be tied into psychology based because of the depth of the characters.
Me personally, I'm not like a graphic designer or anything. But my organization definitely have. I mean, maybe years to come up, you have something that expands to the San Marcos area. You definitely contact with the Hispanic businesses. Whether it be like a speaker. I got cards in my pocket.
Got it. What's your name?
Rob, B-R-O-C. Your name was Albert?
Alfred.
Alfred.
Yeah, you got my name.
Good, to be honest.
Really?
Knowing that somebody's like, doing something effective, because like you said, it's cheesy. Kids make fun of it. You know? This is that's cool. Yeah, it might be a little edgy, a little violent, which is exactly what these kids want.
You know what's funny about that? It's also politically accurate for most people.
Oh yeah?
I'm going to do that separately as a nonprofit because I can't get the religious side into schools. But he's got anger issues, wrath, gluttony, greed. Everything she sees she wants. Lust, sloth, he's very bad. He just wants everything and cry. So it's the 7 deadly sins, but at the same time everything is deeper. Dental perfection man is a dentist to Yeshua. His name is a human is Yeshua, not a guy called Yeshua. He's a name of society. He goes by the nickname of Jesus. Malachi means king from the Israel side and the priest. It's all scripture. And it goes deeper. The symbolism, those are all pretty Hebrew symbols. It has deeper meaning. Or just everything. You know, everything is, there's deeper meaning.
Private schools.
For religious schools, I want to market the whole package, the dental education, psychology, behavioral education, and religious education, to general, public schools, and I have to do just the dental and psychology.
Good luck with that. I hope that goes through.
I work for an appliance store, but I recently started working because I had asked for off because I went to it was called Damon John's Success Formula. Damon John from Shark Tank and well, he has this course that he does. And it was a 3-day course. I requested off and I bought and I wasn't going to miss out on the opportunity to work with this new investor that I've been talking to. And so I took off anyway. So I went out and found another job just in case I got fired. And so I've been working for a hotel, a Hyatt Place hotel. The reason I actually came was that although I wanted to tour Capital Factory, I had seen on Facebook something called Social Media Day. And Mashable, you know what Mashable is? Yeah. It's like a news product promotion company. But they're huge. They're all over the world. They've got, just on Facebook, they have like 5 million followers, and then everything they post is like 25 million hits. You know, well, I had seen that Mashable was hosting Social Media Day, and I assumed that they were going to be here next time. But it's something that they're doing worldwide, and social media businesses are hosting events in different cities. That's it's tomorrow, so I came for this. And I said, I figured what if I was going to be here in town, I might as well come and tour Capital Factory. Earlier I went and toured Geekdom in San Antonio, which is similar to this, but it's just more co-working spaces. This has a lot more to offer. But I was researching on National, And Mashable promotes businesses or people that have big ideas, or trying to improve. And there's a thing that's incubator. It was on the website. And what incubator is, it's for people that have ideas to change the world and make the world a better place. So some businesses that they help out, there's a guy that takes trash, converts it into these pellets that you can burn and turn into energy, burn them for energy. And so it's that type of thing we're trying to help with, the trash problem and different things. Well, I mean, this is health hygiene, it is to improve the quality of life. So I think I could possibly, get in there. And guess who sponsors that incubator program through Mastercard? Hyatt Place and Hyatt House Hotels. I work for Hyatt Place.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't think that was just a coincidence.
Yeah.
I'm running down this path and researching about different things, and the hotel that I work for sponsors this event or this program that promotes businesses that are trying to make money. So I plan to contact Mashable, and I saw that not only can you pay them to promote your product, but you can request that they help you to find a sponsor. So I don't know what the variables are that they decide to do that for you, but like this is to help not only kids but just people in general. So I'm hoping that they will, and hopefully they'll take the fact that I work for Hyatt Place Hotel. Maybe they will tell them, hey, one of the people it's a franchise, it's not the corporate hotel, but I work for Hyatt Place that was familiar with franchises. So maybe they would take that into consideration, like maybe they would want to sponsor me because I work for your hotel.
Yeah, at least they can see like your accountability. Like they'll just at least get some.
I mean, that's something that they can promote. The fact that I work for them.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have a big idea.
Yeah, that's really.
This can be used all over the world. It's just a matter of changing the language. And I'm hoping to start off in English, Spanish, and Hebrew.
What's up? Where do they speak Hebrew in
Israel.
Right on.
And then like New York, there's there's like as many Jews in New York as there are in Israel. So.
Oh, okay. Los Angeles has it's the second biggest city with most Mexican-born people. It has more than what they
Really?
Yeah, everywhere else. Mexico City.
Yeah.
Los Angeles is It's kind of interesting.
So starting off in English, Spanish, and Hebrew, that's a lot of areas that covers, population-wise.
Going in, capital factor inició en 2009 en países más.
Yeah, and number 3 and 4 was like Indian and Mandarin Chinese. Right. Actually, Mandarin Chinese might be
Space was
number 1.
empty.
It's just
Real
centralized.
estate pricing was they gave us
It's always changing. It's always
I don't know. They gave them a really good deal to just take over the
This is on my app. There's still a lot of improvement that needs to be done, but some college students helping to develop. I've been working with Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and some college students developed my website and my app. So I'm going to improve them, I'm developing a type of a game, and so what we're going to do is we're going to have dentist advertise on the paper comic, also in the digital comic, on the website. So they advertise and they become a partner, and then they basically give them a domain name to where their patients can log in, do their practice, and then the kid will get on the website with that. On the app, there's a two-person timer, so it's a timer that goes for 2 minutes, so that they go for 10 minutes. There's a two-person reminder, so it's an alarm that's going to remind them to brush their teeth. And then there's a game.
Thank you guys for coming today. Let everybody get situated. Don't be shy, they don't bite in the front. So my name is Vidal Piña, I'm the VP of Education for Prospanica Austin. I want to welcome everybody. We have a very special guest today, so I don't want to take too much time out of his speech, but just want to mention a few things. First off, I want to thank the Capital Factory for having us here tonight. It's a very special location for us to have not only our first event, but also future events. So I want to welcome you guys and also make sure you memorize this place because we'll have more events here to come. So I want to thank them to begin with. But I want to introduce to you basically the next Bill Gates of the world. So you might want to get his autograph before he leaves. He's went to UT, so he's made a good choice, a Longhorn. He got his MBA down in Chile, and then he's opened a bazillion companies basically. He helped co-found some and sell some, so we want to borrow his expertise and knowledge tonight and just share with all of you guys. So we're glad that you guys came. We hope that you'll join us for more events. And then I'll make an announcement at the end about parking if you guys happen to park in this building, but I'm just going to wait for more people to show up. So without further delay, I want to introduce Estuardo Robles. Welcome.
Let's see. Everybody smile at the camera, we're being live streamed. Over there. Yeah. Well, thank you for the Bill Gates. I've been an entrepreneur. I've done a lot of attempts of companies, and some have been good, but most of them have been very normal. I usually try to tell people now that I'm in investment banking, I'm helping founders to exit their companies. At Briggs Capital, I say that most exits are not the sexy things that you see on TechCrunch or that you see in the news or the big IPOs, but there's a lot of exits, especially in the private markets right now. There's a good opportunity to start a company. So. Yeah, not Bill Gates, but thank you very much, and I appreciate the chance to present to you. And we're going to talk about a little bit of my experience. Also, is what I came to call Tropicalized Entrepreneurs. And most everybody knows that when you call something, back in the tropics, if something works kind of, or we start an event late or things like that. That's the tropics. So, Tropicalized Entrepreneurs, they come from Latin America, but it's not really Latin American entrepreneurs. It's an evolution or a meeting in the middle of two different types of entrepreneurs. The US entrepreneurs or developed world entrepreneurs and developing world entrepreneurs. We'll touch a little bit on that, but we'll talk about Latin America, how to get in there, how to do business there. We'll touch on many different subjects. And it's a small crowd, so we can you can ask questions and interrupt if you want, okay? And we'll just have a conversation on as the slides go on, okay? And they gave me like 40 minutes. I think that's good, okay? Well, we'll see how it goes, okay? So thank you, Prospanica, for inviting. Basically, the tagline is, how to fill the gap between Silicon Valley and the rest of the world. Starting by, with the example of Latin America, that's what we're going to talk about. But that's a little bit of the main topic. We're going to have three parts to the presentation: a more 30,000-foot view, a more helicopter view, and then something close to the ground. And so the macro level, which is high up, is we'll talk about the importance of Latin America for entrepreneurs, for business, for the world, and also a little bit about the unimportance of Latin America and why it's also not the place, the holy grail, where you're going to make a killing necessarily. Some people do, but we'll touch both things. On the meso level, we'll start talking about the forces that are creating this new thing called the Tropicalized Entrepreneur, and a little bit of that is company building, lean startup, and a bunch of things that are very common here at the Capital Factory that are in a lot of the crossword puzzles here on the right and everything. So we'll touch a little bit on the forces that are creating this new type of entrepreneur and company and startup. And then on the micro level, how to get some business going in Latin America right now, and I have a few ideas and a few things to offer, or if anybody wants to take advantage of them, including. So if you want to download the presentation, this is the short link. If you can't see it, it's tropicalized.tatarobles.com. But you can download later from SlideShare, which is it's just a link that goes to SlideShare extended URL. So, talking about the unimportance of Latin America, I think we have to admit that we have to appreciate that we're all here in Austin and we can do business in the US, and we're in the biggest market, the best market, the one that's the most friendly to business, to entrepreneurs, the one where you can thrive and everything. And I always say that, a lot of the people who give presentations about other parts of the world, they're, oh, you gotta go to Asia and there's so much, the US is behind, and you gotta go to Latin America and it's great. And I always say you gotta go to global markets because you can make a really, good killing. Global markets can be very helpful for you to be able to make money back in the US again and get, learn lessons and be able to apply them back into this market. But in the end, the US is the big one. I mean, this is just an example of technology, but I like to call the US like the world's furnace. Whatever you throw at it, it eats it up, The US, when the world's economies are doing bad, the US is the one that lifts them up again, so we're lucky to be here. And just let's remember that, about the US being king. And now putting a little bit of that into context, everybody like Brazil, Mexico, these huge economies, they are very big countries, they are very important markets, very, very good markets for business. If you can do it well, you can do very well in those markets. Colombia, you can do very well. You can do very well if you go to Guatemala or Nicaragua and do a good product and succeed. But when you look at it in terms of comparativeness, Texas is a state of 27 million people and the same GDP as a country of 210 million people, right? And Canada, 35 million people, larger than Mexico with 130 million people. So, we still have a long way to go in Latin America, but there's potential. Now that's GDP and strength of the economy, right? But, and the last thing, and that's one of the points. The US is very competitive. There's a lot of competition. Whatever you put out there, you're going to get competition very quickly. Not to say that Latin America is not very competitive. I think if there's any people that have ever started business in Latin America, especially the tinier the country is, and I've started business in Central America, Guatemala, El Salvador, tiny countries, and the moment you do something new, everybody copies you. And the smaller the country is. And it kind of creates noise and it's not very efficient, but still with all of that, it doesn't compare to the competition in the US. Everybody wants to be here, everybody wants to do business here, so Latin America is a place where it's a blue ocean, I call it. There's a chance for you to start and actually not have as much competition or compete on what they call the blue ocean level. So yeah, most of us are familiar with the blue ocean and the red ocean strategy. So let's look at the positive things about Latin America and why I like it very much and I promote it. I do. The market, it's twice the size of the US. US about 300 million people, right? Latin America 600 million people, 210, about a third is Brazilians, just Brazil. It's got a nice GDP, when you combine it, 5 trillion. What's interesting though is that the price when it's adjusted for price purchasing parity, PPP, it's higher than the actual dollar. So things are less expensive down there, so there's a little bit more value of the dollar, and that's more economics, but this is good because it's usually very rich countries that have the PPP GDP higher than the nominal GDP. And Latin America, for not developed region, has a higher PPP. You can look into that later, but it's a good thing in terms of consumer spending. Also, it is in the developing world, and people talk about all the cities and the huge cities in China and the huge cities in Indonesia and Africa and the Middle East and all these places, but the highest urban density, the urban migration that's been happening in those markets for the last 20 or 30 years have been happening in Latin America for about 60 years. Very crowded cities, the cities are more developed and they're very urban, so you can deploy companies. I mean, Mexico, right? Mexico City, Sao Paulo. If you deploy your company in Mexico City, you already cover about 33% of the wealth of Mexico. It's such a big city and so much of the economy of the country depends on it. So that's good. And for entrepreneurs, because you just have to focus on one city. And then in Sao Paulo, the same thing. Sao Paulo still today, in Brazil, the state of Sao Paulo, because Brazil has states, the state of Sao Paulo is about 35% of the GDP of Brazil, of that huge market, and the city of Sao Paulo is about 20% of the GDP of the country. So it's very interesting, and that's very common in all the countries in terms of cities. I also always like to throw in the forward thinking. It is a very forward thinking. It's a fun place. It's got its problems like every country or like every region, but it's also a very surprising place. And you know, no region in the world has had as many women presidents as Latin America. 6 now, I think. Yeah. And for a very macho, you know, whatever, you know, region and whatever people say about Latinos and Latin men and everything, and they are, you know, they're not the best men, but they, you know, it's still a region that's very proactive or very surprising. And then they talk a lot about the racial problems and the class and socioeconomic problems. I grew up in Guatemala, and they always criticize the country for you know, native people and, you know, the people that are, you know, of European descent or whatever. It's a big problem, and they say that nobody gets opportunities. But then you've got Alejandro Toledo of Peru, a very indigenous country, and Evo Morales of Bolivia. They're both indigenous, they're natives, and they've become president of their countries. So, you know, that hasn't happened in a lot of regions in the world where the people that got conquered actually get to be president 100 years later. So, and then for business, I like this very much. And I've got a little bit of old stats because I can't find any more. Now it turns out that the Philippines is the country that has the highest social media usage in the world. It's not the Philippines. The problem is that there's like an open job. And WhatsApp got in, you know, has been around for like 4 years, WhatsApp. And how many people use WhatsApp on their phone right now here? Okay.
I have it.
It's a crowd that has WhatsApp. I hope that you have WhatsApp, but it's very big in Latin America, right? So now most of the traffic of the hours spent on social media have been, you know, they're spending less time on Facebook, but everyone's on WhatsApp all day, right? So that's why these hours that 5 years ago when I was giving this presentation at these conferences in social media, strategy summit, or wherever you pull out these numbers, it's like double, you know, of the rest of the world in terms of social media usage. And it's because Latinos and Hispanics, those Hispanics were very sociable people. You know, we're very fun, we're very friendly. So when we grab these technologies, we really, you know, we use them. And, you know, if we just get a cheap smartphone plan, and then they finally came in the US, the smartphone plans about 3 years ago, and now it's just gone crazy in terms of internet usage of the US Hispanic population. But also, Latin America finally has unlimited plans down there also. It's just exploded. It's just crazy. But because nobody measures WhatsApp that much, we're not in these stats are no longer, I can't find them. I couldn't find really good stats. So if you add back WhatsApp, in Argentina and Brazil, they'd be way higher than Philippines and everybody in terms of social media usage. One really cool stat, or one really cool thing that I like to talk about is that when a new social platform or a new messaging platform, and this has been almost proven every single time, you can't really get the data unless you look for it and everything. And I always said I'm going to do it for next time, and I just don't, you know. But every time that I've actually found out the data, it's always proven. When a new technology product that has to do with social media or messaging comes out, 3 times more Hispanics than Latin Americans proportionately will download it or adopt it early on, early adopters. You know, the first people that use it and grab it, download it, and start using it. So when LinkedIn came out, Foursquare came out, and Pinterest came out, it's proven that it was 3 times more Latinos and Hispanics and Latin Americans. What that means is, you know, we talked about there's 600 million people in Latin America. There's about 50 million in the U.S. Hispanics, right? So it's about, you know, if you add them, it's about 650 million Spanish or Spanish Portuguese, you know, speakers, and that's about 10% of the world, right? So when LinkedIn launched and Foursquare launched, there was 3 times more gross amount of people that were Hispanic inside the platform than there was of any other race, ethnicity, language, or whatever. It was always the Hispanics and the Latinos that were the first ones to adopt the networks. To the point that there's another platform that I forgot to put, and I remember it right now, but Orkut. Anybody remember Orkut? No, from Brazil? No, not from Brazil, but Brazil killed it. No, okay, Orkut was, you remember Google Wave? Yeah? Okay. And now Google Plus? Okay, so Google Plus is the 3rd time that Google tries to kill Facebook. And they tried first with Orkut, and then they had Wave, and then they had Plus. And they haven't been able to do it with either, but Orkut in particular, so many Brazilians downloaded Orkut in the first couple of hours, or whatever, a couple of days, that when they kept on promoting it, Google started promoting it on all their other channels that Orkut was this new, it was a Facebook. And people went in, but all the content was in Portuguese. So people said, what the hell is this? And they, you know, Americans and Europeans, they didn't adopt the platform. They just threw it in. It was a big failure. But in Brazil, Orkut, up until 2012, 13, 3 or 4 years ago, was still the #1 social network. It was the only country in the world that used it, and eventually Facebook beat them, right? They finally took all the market share. But yeah, I mean, Facebook was everywhere. But the Brazilians, they killed Orkut for Google, and it's because they grabbed it and they started using it because it was a social media platform, and it came before, it was between Friendster and, I don't know how, there was a young crowd, there was a diverse crowd, but anybody remember Friendster? No? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, so the point is, very cool region to launch tech, mobile, social. You know, if you're going to create an app, make it in Spanish and Portuguese and English to start with, because it'll give you an edge. It'll give you an edge in terms of users and usage. And you know, when you launch these apps and nobody downloads them, you can be lucky and get one press mention, and you can get a bunch of press in the U.S. But U.S. consumers, everything is oh, you're soliciting, stop soliciting with me. So everybody blocks everything. But you get one good mention in a Latin American, in any country, and you could get you know, you could get thousands of users, you know, for your app. So you want to make it in those languages, because you just might be lucky, and you know, Orkut might happen to you, but not in the sense of it getting killed, but in the sense of you actually getting a bunch of users. If that makes sense. It's embarrassing for Google to get Orkut killed because of the Brazilians adopting it, but for us it would be a blessing to have 25 million Brazilians download our app in the first couple of weeks, right? So, or a couple of days. Any questions on this? No? Okay. I always like to joke about this. This was and we're going to come back to this, we're going to touch this again in about 3 slides. But back in 2009, this is the Felipe Larraín, which is the tesorero, the ministro de Hacienda, which is the secretary of the Treasury equivalent of Chile. And he's at the World Economic Forum, so he's all fancy there. It's 2009, everybody's dying because it's the financial crisis and the world is going to end. And he's talking about how Latin America didn't get hit. I mean, we got hit because we're a tiny region, but the banks never loaned money out to all those crazy things that they loaned everywhere else in the world. Because the mortgage crisis was everywhere else in the world. They gave money to everybody. It wasn't only the U.S. They gave for housing. Everywhere the real estate market collapsed, and the governments were in debt and everything. But in Latin America, because it was the 3rd time we had already screwed up the banking system, we finally learned. There had been 3 mini financial crises of epic proportions that had happened in Latin America throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever. And then finally we learned, and central banks tightened, had a really tight monetary and fiscal policy. They were able to, back in the 80s and 90s, Latin American governments were able to separate politics from policy in terms of monetary and fiscal, which never happens in Latin America. I mean, you can sway everything. And central bank, if a party or a president or a Congress of a country is trying to make them print out more money or whatever, just to spruce up their political capital, the central bank is very independent. In most of these markets and most of these countries are not. This is going to be the rate, this is going to be the interest rates, and you're going to respect, because we learned. The countries, they learned. So the idea was that Latin America has always been part of the problem, and finally we're kind of part of the solution back in 2009.
Thanks.
And then we had a big boom. There was a big boom in all the countries, and it's been a recession like for the last 2 years. But it's normal, we had while everybody else was recovering, Latin America was just going gangbusters from 2010 to 2015. It was great. It was really good. So okay, so that's the macro part of the presentation. So just a little bit of Latin America opportunities. Now we're getting into the meso part of the presentation, the middle part, and it's the tropicalized entrepreneur, which is really how do we bridge the gap between the U.S. and LATAM, or the rich world and the poor world, or developed and developing. I always like to say that the difference is just so big between rich countries and poor countries. If we could just bring it a little bit closer, a lot of good things could happen. And I think it's happening in entrepreneurship. So here in this picture, we've got it's a good picture. We've got the U.S. entrepreneur, and then we got the Latin entrepreneur, right? And This guy has like 7 companies. He's somebody who's an optimist will call him the next Bill Gates. But one of them makes no money. One of them is just, you know, him and you know, and trying to, you know, with one customer or whatever, you know, and there's, you know, just trying everything, right? And this is the Latino, the U.S. Hispanic entrepreneur and the Latin American entrepreneur. Then you got the U.S. entrepreneur. You know, he's got all the money in the world. He complains about not, you know, the traffic in his car. This guy doesn't even know the problem is the things that he doesn't have, you know, and he's appreciative of whatever he gets, you know. And he's like, oh, I will only take money from a VC that fits my profile. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's true, you know. I mean, I like to compare it to lawyers from Latin America and lawyers from the U.S. So I have a bunch of lawyer friends, and you go to a Latin American. Let's start with the U.S. You go to a U.S. attorney. And you got like 25 attorney friends, right? And they're all in fancy firms, and you know they're great attorneys and everything. You say, hey, listen, I got a problem with this. Oh, I'm an IP attorney. You know, I don't know anything about that. You know, the level of specialization that the U.S. has because of how complex and advanced and rich and whatever this economy is makes everybody be very specialized. You go to a Latin lawyer, and they marry you, they divorce you, they, you know, they'll create companies for you, they'll do all the things of the law, everything. They're abogados y notarios, right? We all know this, so they're also notaries. You know? and like, listen, I have this problem with this. Oh, I'll think, you know, we'll do it. We'll get it done. You know. And it's a couple of guys, you know, a guy and a girl in a shop, and they're doing everything, you know. And that's a little bit of what, you know, this is what we're trying to bridge here with the tropicalized lawyer, and, you know, the U.S. or the rich lawyer or whatever. But things that are happening that I'm looking at, and I'm trying to turn this into concepts that are a little bit more fluid. But I'm very excited, and we're mad that Estuardo didn't come right because he's the one who got me really excited about company building. But he's right.
Yeah.
There's downward forces that are pushing and simplifying the entrepreneur in the U.S. Sort of. Because there's unicorns and everything, right? It keeps getting bigger and bigger in the U.S., right? Just more and more, you know, wealth and VC money and everything. But there's also things that are letting people in the U.S. become more entrepreneurial quickly. I call them downward forces, and then we got upward forces that are making the Latin American entrepreneur a little bit more, have more resources instead of having no resources at all. So the two big forces that are making the tropical entrepreneur in the U.S. is the lean startup, and this was, you know, when I moved to Austin back in 2009, everybody was talking about the lean startup, and we've got one of the gurus of the lean startup movement here in Austin. He's very famous, Ash. He's always talking here. So, you know, it became a movement, lean startup, which was, you know, everybody know a little bit about lean startup, right? It's just basically, you know, don't spend a lot of money, don't waste it, you know, check, you know, iterate. You know, do iterations, check very quickly how it's progressing, and then change and drop everything you already made if it's not working, and keep on going, which is it's kind of like how these guys operate. It almost feels like when you read the books about lean startup, you're like, I feel like they're writing about me, right? And now, more recently, it's company building. These huge company builders they're no longer VCs. Company builders are older entrepreneurs that have done a bunch of companies, maybe a few sexy exits, but you know they've just done a bunch of businesses. They're older folks, older guys and gals, and they're grabbing entrepreneurs and they're saying, "I'll help build a company quick. We'll take it to market. I'll bring contacts that I know and everything. I'll give you a little bit of capital, but not VC capital." And they'll get very involved, and they're just pushing out companies every couple of months. There are these company factories. You know, there's company builders they're called. Okay. And it actually it gave rise by clones. The cloners became the original cloners that everybody hated. Remember that Groupon was always really mad that when they got very popular and in the US and they started making all the money in the world, and I'm still mad. I still think that guy should have sold for $6 billion, and he's like, no, I'm not going to sell my company. And when Groupon finally said, let's go international, everywhere in the world there were Groupon clones, and if they were too strong in every market, they had to buy them up. And one country that became very famous for expensive clones was the Samsa brothers of Germany. That they made a clone for everything happening in the US, they made a clone immediately for Germany. And they sold it to Groupon, and they sold it to whatever, and there was like 3 or 4 really big companies they sold that were just copies of what somebody else was doing. Like you remember Mint.com, the banking? They made, I think they made like Mint.com, I can't remember, and sold it to Mint or something, but the Samsa brothers, they have their company building company is called Rocket Internet. So if you guys want to Google it, they're huge. What was the, okay, so company building. They used to be the cloners, everybody hated them, but now they created a methodology, kind of like Lean Startup, where you build companies very quickly. And that's helping to bring the downward force where more people can get into entrepreneurship. They don't have to get out of their job they don't have to get out of their job, they can actually do the company with the help of the company builders at night. Everybody hears that entrepreneurs say that they build a company at night while they still have the job, but it's not everybody. Most people cannot build a company while they're still having a job. You gotta either quit, and then if it takes too long, that's the other thing. So once we get these forces closer here, we'll talk about quicker time to success. But you don't have to wait 3 years to see if you're gonna make it. You can actually, or not. No. If you're an entrepreneur in the US or in the traditional way of it, you gotta try every company in 2 to 3 year cycles. And then, I've been at it for almost, about 16, 17 years, I've been at it. I've not always been an entrepreneur, but I still haven't made the big one, right? But, because I'm doing one, I'm still doing them all at the same time, but most of the time here, it's just you gotta wait, and you gotta start over another one, and you gotta start over, and sometimes your life can go by, and you still have not made the huge successful venture that you wanted to make. Same thing as the VC model, right? Out of every 10 that a VC invests in, only 1 is going to make it. They're going to kill 8 of them, and the 9th company will be so-so. So imagine that. Imagine if you have the bad luck of the probabilities that your 10th company is the one that you succeed in, but you did 2 or 3 year intervals to get there. It's going to take you 20 or 30 years to make it huge. Does that make sense? So company builders are helping to do that, to do a couple at the same time, 3 at the same time. And then here in Latin America, we'll talk about this. There used to be nothing. Back in 2007, 8, 6, everyone was talking, oh yeah, we need to be like Silicon Valley. Nothing happened. And then suddenly it happened. And we'll talk about a little bit about that. But angels showed up. They got created finally. Finally, because accelerators just suddenly appeared everywhere. Government funding, VC funds. There used to be no venture capital firms down there. And now there's a bunch. And now the rising company building, it's kind of chronological, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. But the idea of the Tropicalized Entrepreneur is that there will be more efficient capital deployment, not so much waste of money or smarter, okay, this money is being misused, misinvested, let's change the style, let's change the company, let's do another one, or let's do another business model. Better risk mitigation, if you're doing 2 or 3 or 4 at the same time, then one of them you can mitigate risk. And then quicker time to success for the entrepreneur. This is for investors, and for company success, and this is for the entrepreneur, and for the investors too, but for the entrepreneur particularly, because investors, they invest their money in 10 different VC funds, and a few private equity funds, and a little bit in the stock market, because they got all this money, right? You as an entrepreneur, you gotta decide where you invest your time and your life. So you wanna make you wanna make the time to success quicker if possible. Any questions? No? Okay. So we're going to talk about how Latin America finally became an entrepreneurial place with formal entrepreneurship, not the lawyer guy that does everything, and with little resources, but a little bit. There's more now. It's not the U.S., it's not Silicon Valley, it's not even close to how Austin is, but it's really good. It's amazing how those countries have gone up in the last few years. And it was really because of business angels. I like this matrix very much, but I can spend a long time talking about it. But it's the risk, capital requirements, and then what the different stages are for the entrepreneur. So forever, this is the important part. Forever, Latin America was just friends, family, and fools, right? The first stage of funding. It was that's the only way that you could start a company. And probably nobody gave you money but family. Friends wouldn't give you. and nobody would be a fool to give you, right? So it was only pretty much your family. And then suddenly business angels came in. And they came in at about, they were always business angels, but I'll show you a little bit about how they suddenly took off. And that just made the whole difference. I mean, business angels, angel groups are the ones who really can make a difference for a community to get it to become entrepreneurial in small town in rural America or in know, if you form angel groups, it takes only about 5 years if you form a few, and then suddenly there's much more entrepreneurship than there was before you started. So this was a great thing that happened, and we'll talk about the LATAM Angel. I don't know why, I don't know how exactly, but it's a little bit similar. We were talking about that as we were all talking networking, that we're a Capital Factory, and Capital Factory, when was it founded? Do you guys remember? Does anybody know? 2009. Okay, yeah, I'm not making it up. Josh Bayer, the emperor of entrepreneurship in Austin, what I remember is he got a really good deal on the penthouse because there was a real estate crisis, nobody wanted it, so he said, well, we're going to do this thing, you know, and now today it's this, but he wouldn't have gotten that deal if it wasn't a crisis. And I think if you look back at when the angels got big and if you can trace back what was the thing that changed the trajectory, the open jaw, right, that was going in this direction and suddenly went like this, or the hockey stick, was also the 2009 financial crisis. So Latin America was doing well, relatively speaking, to everybody else because the banks, you know, had not screwed up. And I guess suddenly it became cool to be an angel, you know, and then people wanted to organize angel groups, and you know, I got a consulting gig to form an angel group. I remember I learned a little bit about that when I was in Austin back at UT. You know, I remember that I went to some of the events and everything, but actual formal stuff we started really working on it everywhere. And yeah, all these things happening, we started seeing cross-border deal sharing between Chilean angels and Brazilian angels and everything, and the thing just went crazy from 2009, 10, and we'll talk about also who made it really happen, and we're gonna give it a little bit of credit to Startup Chile, but they're the ones who brought everything together and gave Latin America also a lot of fame at that time, and I think it also got the angels very excited at the time too. So the 2009 financial crisis, and I forgot to add a preview of about 4 slides down. We're going to talk about that too. So, you know, these are like the founders, the founding angel networks of Latin America. Very famous Floripa Angels, Southern Angels of Chile, and Gavea Angels of Rio. Very famous. They did a lot of deals way back in the day. But this was a group that had organized itself under the Inter-American Development Bank, and this was 2009, 10, 11, and you know, they were pushing. You know, they were pushing, and now this is just, you know, the Brazilian startup ecosystem, right? And you know, the U.S. has those that they make it on CB Insights, you know, that you expand them and they're like the size of, you know, they don't fit in the screen. But this one almost isn't finished. This is just the Brazilian startup ecosystem today. So, you know, it's really changed. It's really impressive how in 5 years, 6 years, it just went gangbusters. We even have Latin American unicorns. Who would have thought ever there's going to be billion-dollar valuated companies from Latin America? This is an old slide. Again, I guess there's unicorns everywhere, but I couldn't find the Latin American unicorns list, but this is the one. These were the unicorns in 2013, and these were the up-and-coming ones, and a lot of these are already over $1 billion today, almost all of them. So these, I think, I read it, I couldn't find the article, but there's about 12 or 15 Latin American-based unicorns. So yeah, it's a whole other thing. And so, you know, give credit to the angels and give credit to Startup Chile. Give credit to, you know, whom credit is due. Does anybody know Startup Chile?
I've heard of them, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, and they're still around, you know, but back in the day, these guys came up with, I call it the third most important innovation in terms of economic development and global trade and everything that have ever happened in recent modern economic history. The third. The first one was about in the 60s or something, or 70s, when the Koreans invented the idea of sending Korean government representatives to put offices all over the world to promote Korean products locally in markets. It was export promotion because Korea was a country that went from being very poor to one of the wealthiest in the world in about 30 years by pure export promotion, right? So Kotra, Corfo did Startup Chile, but Kotra from Korea was the government agency that invented that idea. They invented the idea. Now everybody has an office everywhere, right? Governments everywhere have people, reps that are pushing and giving presentations. Hey, buy products from whatever country or what, you know. But they came up with the idea. That was the first big thing to modernize like economic development and everything was culture. Then IDA from Ireland, they were the ones who invented the idea of foreign direct investment agencies, investment promotion agencies. So those agencies that give you tax incentives, they give you free, grants, and hey, listen, we'll train your people for free, we'll come relocate, site selection, relocators, all that stuff. It's a huge industry. It wasn't, the idea of it was invented by IEA, by Ireland, the Irish. That was another big thing for the world. And then Corfo, which is the Economic Development Agency of Chile, invented the concept of giving a bunch of entrepreneurs from all over the world seed money to come to your country to start a company. Now there's Startup Everything. There was even Startup America about 2 or 3 years afterwards where they were giving seed money and everything. Startup America was a little bit different, but there's Startup Athens, Startup Ireland, Startup, every city has a startup program, that where they're trying to bring entrepreneurs or they're giving seed money. But they're the ones who invented this whole thing that a lot of people take for granted. That guy that, ended up getting the app made for free. I emailed him today.
Yeah.
Is he here? No? Don't say I don't know. No. Anyway, so he got the app for free because there's all these programs now that help entrepreneurs, and all of that was started by Startup Chile. Really. I mean, they're the ones who said, let's make a government-pushed effort to help entrepreneurship. And they gave $40,000 was the grant. You have to move to Chile for a year, start your company. There'll be a seed funding. We'll also give you presentations with all the VCs and all the people that have money here, so you can get further rounds and investments. But we'll also introduce you to clients and partners. So if you are making an app that's going to do something with a cell phone, they would get you a meeting with the CEOs of Telefonica and I forget the names of the ones in Chile, but they're all the same big international company. And then you'd be able to pitch the guy for 2 minutes, or the girl, about the app. Oh, by the way, I forgot another. The highest female CEOs in the world is in Latin America. I forgot to include that. I just remember right now. Okay, so Startup Chile. It's amazing what they did, and they really made it very famous, and they got everybody excited. And that's, I think, what helped to make Latin America a place that has a lot of entrepreneurs and unicorns and everything today, and a great place to go start a company. So yeah, that's really cool. Okay, the micro part. So doing business in Latin America. We'll go very quick here. Well, this is going to be the long one, and then we're just going to go quick on the other ones. Okay? Almost wrapping up. How long have we been talking? Huh?
You're good, you're good.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
What time is it?
7:22.
Okay, we started. Oh, it's only been 40 minutes. 45. We started at 44. Okay, we got 5 more minutes. So. I don't know, I try to be pragmatic about how to approach the region and how I've been able to do deals with few resources or a lot of resources or thinking outside the box or whatnot. And so a few that work. You're a US-based entrepreneur and you've got a product and it's becoming hard to, it's a B2B product. It's not a mass consumer product, let's say. So you got to sell it to companies, right? Or you got to sell it to governments. Well, give Latin America a try to get your first client, because you can actually email them, hi, we got this thing that helps reduce the amount of time that it will take electric utility companies to count the kilowatt hour, whatever. You can email from here and say they're going, oh, US company with the software, I'll buy it right now. The quickest deal that I ever closed, and this doesn't happen always because it's a pain in the butt to sell a business down there, and it's easier in the US, but I mean, the quickest sale that I ever made was in El Salvador, the tiniest country in the world. Well, not the tiniest, but. And I just, I went to present. They looked at it. I don't know if we want this. And then as I was, going out the door, they called me from the office that the fax with the purchase order had already arrived for a ton of. It was these things that turned the computer into a TV. They would grab the signal from before analog signal, 2005. Okay. Anyways. So this works very well. Also with, I was one of the first employees at a startup here in town called Twofer that got sold to Salesforce, a really cool company. And we didn't get any clients, but our Latin American deals that we were cooking made our PowerPoints look very sexy to investors, because we were talking to very big multinationals about big deployments, banks and everything. So it made it seem like, and we were going to close the deals, but the American entrepreneurs, I like them, they're good guys. This was the only guy's startup, by the way. The founders, they never made the app into Spanish or Portuguese. So the banks were like, we're ready, but you need the app in Spanish, man. So we couldn't get that thing closed, and by the time things advanced, it was already getting acquired, and it was kind of cool because we made it look cooler, you know, because of all the stuff that we were doing in Latin America. If that makes sense. So it's easier. It's easy to be an entrepreneur from the U.S., a company, and contact Latin American companies and say, I got something to offer you, and you might be able to close a deal. A thing that works very well, that doesn't work as well in the U.S., I've tried, they ask you for a lot of money, is trade associations. You know, we're the Texas Restaurant Association, you got this thing for restaurants, right, for Wi-Fi for restaurants, okay. Well, you can pay to have a booth at our conference, you can do this, you can be on our magazine for so much, you know, you can be featured on the magazine for so much money or whatever. And it's expensive because you might get everybody might be featured, you might have a booth, but nobody, you know, it'll take a long time for anything to close. You can email or call a trade association in Latin America and be like, hey, I'm a US-based company, I've got this presentation I want to give about Tropicalized Entrepreneurs, and then, you know, they'll give you the presentation time, you know, I mean, they will want to hear about the new technology, the stuff that's coming from Austin, you know, everybody's Austin based, right? So it works out very well to just cold call and you're going to have a room full of bankers, and they're going to be the IT people or the marketing people from all the big banks in Colombia. We'll probably go to the presentation to somebody from Austin that's coming, you know, and Austin is cool and whatnot. It's a great way to get business going down there. Use multinationals to sell back, again, to the global headquarters. What does that mean? So, what was a good example of that? Extreme Networks. Yes, atento. Telefónica. Largest telecom company in the world. Not anymore, but I think they still are the largest, like Telefónica, 360 million customers they have, right? Telefonica. Telefonica had a call center subsidiary, and we were in El Salvador, a tiny country. And there were these switches, you know, that you know, they were better than Cisco switches. They were better, they were faster, they were simpler to use, because you gotta have a PhD to be able to configure a Cisco, you know, because Cisco iOS is a big problem, you know, and everything. So, you know, we went and we plugged it in, we said, we're just gonna leave it here for a month, try it out, and the guy calls us, listen, we're gonna buy a bunch of these, you know, the IT guy. They bought a couple of racks, we closed a huge deal, and then Telefonica, you know, some guy from Telefonica is checking out the El Salvador office, right? And he's like, what are these things? Oh, that's Extreme Networks, they're really cool. Really? Okay, tell me more about them and whatever. And then suddenly, you know, we should use these in Mexico, right? So some guy in Mexico who was selling Extreme got a deal that was 50 times bigger than mine. And he was sitting on his butt, not doing anything, you know. But it started, the genesis of it, and then Telefonica turned it into their other authorized switch. Because, you know, these big multinational companies, they will take years to authorize another acceptable product or whatever to bring into the network. Huge deal for Extreme Networks. And I emailed the Extreme Networks people, and we had a fight and everything, because I was like, you know, we deserve some credit back in the day, but it was a huge deal for Extreme. And if anybody knows anybody from Extreme, tell them that, you know, Salvador helped them a lot, you know, for their huge success they had in Silicon Valley. But because if Telefonica got it, then China Mobile wanted it, then AT&T wanted it, then Verizon, you know. Very hard to break into networking equipment to get Cisco out, and Telefonica is a big competitor on a global scale of every one of the big telecom companies, so it was a cool story. There's another one though, Avon. Avon is the other one too, yeah, Avon. I'll tell that next time, okay? Oh, but Avon, the trick with Avon was that after we did the call center, we deployed a call center for Avon, and then we contacted every big company has internal magazines. Right? Or now they're newsletters or they're electronic, but they've got a person who's called the editor of the employee publication. Okay, it's a big publication that everybody reads inside the company. And it talks about the CEO and this thing that happened. They had this big Christmas party and there's photos, right? But there's an editor-in-chief of that publication. So we emailed the editor-in-chief and said, listen, we just did this innovation with call centers in Avon where we're helping the women to do the sales better and everything, and they're getting fulfillment for the orders and whatever. She covered it on the magazine, and then we started getting a bunch of calls from Avon in New York to see if we could help them to deploy it in other markets around the world. The same methodology, so yeah. And it was a relatively quick sale that we did in Latin America, so yeah. The last one is, the next to last one is to use Latin America for nearshore. If you're going to do outsourced software development or call centers, use Latin America. I mean, don't go to India, don't go to China. Go there when you're bigger and you can afford it. But it'll be way better for a startup. It's more amicable, it's more friendly, and always have something offshore and nearshore, because I've seen it with so many companies in Austin. They're all proud about it. We're local, we hire local and everything. And then a bunch of competition, happens, because they become such a big and powerful and famous company that they have to say, okay, everybody, we're gonna have to send some of the software development to whatever. How can they lay people off? This company was founded on local and whatever. It becomes a real cultural problem that really affects the not just the competitiveness of the companies, but also just how well they were doing and everything, is because you have to every big major global corporation has a bunch of staff offshore, right? I mean, that's the only way to do business, is you gotta have some people in the States, So I recommend always, and it's easy for a small company to have half a person in Latin America, and you go visit them every 6 months, and just train them, whatever. And that will help as you grow to always have that, and then you can easily deploy a very cheap and very, very sophisticated India, development shop, right? As you grow into a bigger company. And yeah, you can fly them up, right? You guys do that, right? I heard. Yeah? No? You fly up the developers? No? To train? No?
No.
Yes, no? Who's the one who does the development? No? Was? Okay. I heard it. Okay. Cool. So anyways, yeah, you can fly them up from Latin America. You can't really fly somebody up from India that easily, a coder.
Same time zone too.
Yeah, same time zone. Yeah. I used to pitch all that all the time. I don't do outsourcing anymore, thank goodness. I do worse businesses now, I think. So go for fun and just talk to people about business, and so many folks. This friend of mine, Brazilian friend of mine, is just hanging out at a bar. They're very drunk, and then he meets this guy who, I mean, they're doing all these things together, right? And people, it's in the States. Go to networking events, talk to people. I've never really met somebody who's like, I'm this very famous person and rich, and I met you at the networking event. It doesn't happen in the US. It doesn't happen. And in Latin America, where rich people don't go to those things, right? You will meet them at a bar or at a restaurant, and they'll just talk to you. And people are more shy, they won't talk to people they don't know. But if you're drinking or having fun or at a beach or whatever, and you talk business, I do this, I do that, you'll find. Go for a vacation down there, you're going to make business. Does that make sense? Because it's a fun place. People are nice. It's hard to explain that one, but what doesn't work? Getting fundraising down there doesn't work. There's not enough money. I mean, I talked about the angels and everything, but still, I mean, you want money, go to Austin, go to Silicon Valley. All the money in the world in the US for startups. Or rich uncle, in Latin America. And then the other one that doesn't really work too well, I've seen, there's a lot of success stories, but there's been programs here in Austin and everything where you fly the entrepreneurs up to break into the US market. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. You want to start in the US. So usually if you want to expand into the US market, you want to just hire or just sell your license your technology to somebody else, or start a company from scratch, but it's a little bit harder. So we talked about company builders, and we talked about capital, and this is my portfolio of investments. No. This is a call center that I used to own part in it, and if you ever want a call center, but these guys do really good software dev. They're really cool guys. These guys do really hardcore enterprise, massive amounts of people in Costa Rica, good friends. And Making Sense is actually based in San Antonio in Argentina. I don't have any ownership, I wish, here, but they bought me so many lunches and dinners that they're very nice. The guys, I always try to pitch them. And then this is the company builder in Austin that we're trying to launch that will bridge Latin America and Sinner IP. And then the guy who's actually, I'm not founding it, there's Eduardo is the guy who's actually spearheading. He's the guy who really does it really well, so I'll introduce you to him, and I'm just helping out for the ride. And then if anybody wants blackberries or blueberries, I have one of those biggest exporters from Mexico and Guatemala that send berries to the US. If anybody knows anything about that, I'm also doing a little bit of work in fresh produce nowadays. Bill Gates, right? Doing all this stuff. So, yeah, that's immediate, and then also throughout the, whatever, 20 years that I've been, no, over 20 years, but I've been working since I'm 20 years old or something, so 15 years maybe. You know, I've made friends, or I know people, and everybody in an industry works and goes and works in another company and everything, so it's worked out in the past, and I'd be happy if anybody needs to get into a telecom company, to then sell to AT&T because they're already, I'd be happy to go and look and see where you can get a meeting with and do this thing, validate this thing. This is something for Prospanica members.
Yeah.
Okay? So yeah, carriers, a great way to get into Latin America and do business. Then you've got mobile players, players in the mobile space, aggregators of online ads and online advertising and SMS messaging and all that. I know a ton of those. They've changed some of these have gone out of business, you know, everything, but there's still a bunch of them, right? And then software, hardware commercializers down there, app makers, all this stuff, you know. I haven't done too much with these companies. These are the big television, Televisa. But if we put our heads together, we could probably be able to get good meetings with those, you know. And yeah, and the banks. Banks have been great. Banks have been great.
A question back on
Yeah.
the last slide.
Yeah.
Have you seen the?
And this is like kind of like almost the end.
Have you seen the a rise in the internet availability to allow for media streaming sort of technologies or companies opportunities there?
Everywhere in Latin America except Mexico and Brazil, the cell phones are great. Yeah. Mexico and Brazil, they're a little bit slower. Even though
to push video?
I don't know, everywhere you can push a video now. Yeah, they've come a long way. But in Brazil and Mexico, outside of the big cities, it's harder because it's what the U.S. had as a problem about 10 years ago. They finally fixed it. Because they built all the towers first in the U.S. The U.S. was the first country almost to have cell phone service. Then it just took them so long to do it again because they already spent all this money. We had really crappy cell phone service in the U.S. The worst cell phone plans back in 2000. I don't know if anybody remembers, but texting, they charge you for every text message.
Yeah, that was the worst.
And they weren't charging for text messages anywhere else in the world because everybody started with GSM.
Wow.
So it took a long time for the US carriers to reinvest and get things good. But same thing with Mexico and Brazil. They're just so big countries, it's really hard to put all those towers, do all those upgrades. But all the other countries, video, everything, I mean, actually, when I had just moved to Austin, and there was this friend of mine, he's like, called me, FaceTime me from his iPhone, but not FaceTime, but Skype. And he was doing it from the 3G. He said, "What are you doing, man?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is the new 3G. They just did it, last week they launched it in Guatemala. We didn't have, there wasn't any 3G in the US yet, So those tiny countries, yeah. So if you do have like a really, you could probably do something in the tinier countries, yeah. We can talk about it a little bit more, okay? And the banks are great. The banks, they command, people still do a lot of banking and retail. People use banks a lot and everything. Banks are still growing. And if you get into one bank, so if you get into Santander, they bought all the banks in Latin America, same as BBVA from Spain, they bought one bank in every country. So you're able to get into one of those countries through the BBVA connection you have, a friend of yours that went to college as an executive there, you'll be able to get the thing into all the countries through the banks that they bought. So you can make a multinational thing, Canada, the Scotiabank bought a bunch of banks. Citi is getting out though, Citi's getting out of, they were selling everything in Latin America.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah. Also, if press, some of these I still might have contacts, but you can always make them. It's easy to pitch, and they might just run your story. Way easier than pitching American journalists. Oh, it's so hard with American journalists for them to even respond because they get so much bombardment. But you send something cool, and you can get a piece of press, and you can get 25 million users in Brazil for your app. I mean, it can happen. So yeah. So final two slides is two things that are happening in the next few months. Bridging Austin more with Latin America, the 51512 project. 51 being the area code for Porto Alegre, and 512 the area code for Austin. It's actually a copy of 21212, which was a Rio 21 and 212 in New York. 212 in New York? Yeah.
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 And to bridge both cities for entrepreneurship. But Dell has its Latin America headquarters, and one of the biggest factories in the world for Dell is in Brazil, in Porto Alegre.
Yeah.
So there's something there that we haven't taken advantage of, but there's people that have been talking to in Porto Alegre, and I don't know, maybe it'll happen. And we're working on it, so if anybody wants to be part of this, it's a really cool initiative, 51512. Both cities are very creative. Porto Alegre is not the richest city in Brazil, but it's kind of like the Austin of Brazil in that sense. Well, the Austin of Brazil could be Curitiba too, and it could be Campinas also, but it could also be Porto Alegre. You know, they have the 5-1, so I think we'll give them a chance first. But it's a really cool city. So that's one right there, and then there's also the F1. So back in the first F1 race, we did said, oh, F1, Austin technology. We're gonna make all this money, all these connections, so I threw a party, and I just spent a bunch of money giving drinks to a bunch of drunk people who wouldn't stop ordering. It was a fun party, but you know, we connected the Americans and everything. Well, I've been talking to the group that actually got the contract for the first F1 to do all of the shows, all the events. And maybe we'll be able to organize and everything, but the idea is to do marketing or do activations. Just follow the Americas F1 because they're all back to back. So the U.S. Grand Prix happens, then is the Mexico one just a couple of weeks after, and then the next one is the Sao Paulo one. So these are the dates and everything. But the idea is to have a tech business, you know, thing. So if anybody wants to join forces there, it's also something cool that I'm kind of excited about. Recently, I have been very mad at F1 for negative ROI for many years. For a couple of years, but I'm getting excited about it again, so I might invest a little bit of money again in it. So it's a good opportunity, I think, because there's a lot of money in Formula One and the fans and everything. So yeah, that's it. So thank you for your time. Anybody has any questions?
I do have a question.
55 minutes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, no, it's fine. So you mentioned how it's easy for a U.S. company to go pitch to a Latin American country because we're sexy, we're whatever. But how if you're a Latin American company, pitch to an American company, how do the opposite? Or being a Latin person in the U.S., like being a Latin entrepreneur in the U.S., how do you pitch to an American company being like a Latin in the U.S.?
It's tougher. It's way tougher. The rules of it being tougher.
So what's the?
I mean, I've been doing it for such a long time. I mean, I was trying to pitch. Oh yeah, the time zone and whatever. It was so hard to get business with American companies, being a Latin American company. But it's not. It doesn't have anything to do with you being Latino or whatever. It just has to do with that. You know, it's just hard to break in. You got to have a bunch of capital. You got to have a bunch of. You got to be well funded and everything because the market is so competitive, right? Mm-hmm. For startups, though, there is a group. There is a growing group of enamored, big Silicon Valley types that are enamored with Latin America and making a unicorn down there. You just got to read about it and everything, and those are the ones that you can go pitch. And there's every time there's one more in that group. It's like a club of people that will support good Latin American ventures. And I've been trying to keep track a little bit, but they don't return my calls. But but there is chance. There's before. I mean, we're talking just a few years ago. You'd be like Latin America. I mean, even Austin. 10, 15 years ago. The Silicon Valley would be like, oh, we got to fly over the cow pastures to get to Austin. That's how they would talk about Austin. And now with South by Southwest, everybody's here from Silicon Valley. So now there's all these events that 500 Startups is doing down in Brazil and Argentina and everything. And they had the thing called Geeks on a Plane. Josh went on it. It's one of the big guys, Dave McClure, whatever, that owns a big ass plane. He invited all his friends, and they just would land in every city and have parties and events. It was like 3 weeks, Geeks on a Plane, and they went to Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Colombia. So there's more of that happening. So you are respected way more. I mean, today you're level playing, and maybe you'll have an angle because you got the 2 languages, or you have the. But yeah, even a few years ago, it wasn't harder, I think. I don't know if I answered your question, though. I mean, it's just in the U.S., pitching stuff in the U.S., usually. Is that, yeah? No?
No, yeah.
If I find the right find the right person to pitch to, I guess, you know, more than find the right pitch.
It also has to do with like the social relationship, because in Latin America, if you want to get together with someone, they will give you the time. Here, it's like, oh, I already planned my agenda, it's going to take a month. What do you want to talk to me about? Because I might not be interested.
Right.
It's just, it's a cultural thing, I think.
Americans do have to get over themselves on that topic, because they give you the meeting a month ahead. I say all the time to my American friends, I say, guys, they get, oh, I'm going to be available at 3 p.m. August. I have a meeting that I got set up. And the day of the call, they will tell you, oh, can we switch it to 4 when it was at 9 a.m.? Sure, can you? Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. Everybody can. You know, when they gave you the meeting a month ahead, you know, oh, let me check my agenda. And, you know, it's kind of weird, you know, it's kind of weird. Because now in the US, things start late, everybody takes off for the summer, everybody takes off a full month for Christmas. They don't take off, but they don't answer emails. People don't answer emails. People are becoming Latino, they don't. Wait, this is a good one, because I don't want to leave it. It's 12 p.m. on a Friday, and you can't get anybody anymore. And that used to be a Latin thing, you know?
Yeah.
But so Americans, they haven't even noticed that that's happened to them. I don't know if it makes sense to you.
Yeah. It's so funny.
But because when you're pitching or trying to do business, it's like, oh, you know, I'll see you at the annual convention next year. Oh my God, you know. And so yeah, that's something that that's part of the forces down and forces up that I hope will get a little bit closer to the middle. To be able to get a meeting quick, you know, and okay, I wasted half an hour, it wasn't the thing, but hey, we'll do business in 2 years again because I liked you or whatever, you know. Those chances to meet are more common in Latin culture. And there's a lot of time wasted, But I think it's not time wasted, everything is time well spent, you know. It depends on how you look at it, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know, it's tough. There's just no common ground, there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
It's too much over here of something, too little over here. The story of everything, right? It's the story of everything. Yeah. Yes?
I want to speak to you a little bit about my startup, maybe a little later, but
Okay.
I have an opportunity to expand a dental magazine from Mexico City and bring it here to the United States.
Okay.
And my startup has become my baby, my passion, and so I've kind of put that to the side, but you know, I'm debating on whether or not I want to try to do that and bring it.
Do both at the same time?
Yes.
You could. I mean, you got the Mexico City, you got the guys just, you know, can fly them up here all the time to help you out. You know, they're going to love coming to make Austin the regional headquarters for the magazine. Is it just Austin or Houston, Dallas, all of them? Texas or?
International.
All of them? They're going to give you the whole U.S. for the magazine? Wow. Very cool.
They just want to expand it, and
Okay.
with what I'm doing, it could easily go international because mine is very unique.
Cool. Okay. So, you asked the question, did I answer it? I don't know, we'll talk later, right?
Yeah, we'll talk.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't think you touched on it. I know you promote a lot Latin America, and just from my experience.
No, I didn't. Not the whole time. I said, no, I'm just kidding.
Latin American countries, and maybe that's why they're still developing, because of their political environment or the government and the government laws and rules, at least in compliance for tax or compliance for financial statements, it's very complicated, and sometimes it's just not worth doing business or entering into a country because the rules the government has are just outrageous. For you to be compliant with what they want would cost more than the investment you would put in a business.
Yeah, very true, very true. Because, and this is, okay, we're talking about downward forces, upward forces. I don't know, I can only think of one thing to tell you right now about that. I went to buy a prepaid Visa card. You know, those that they saw at CVS. And I'm paying for it because I'm testing out this startup that I'm doing. Where my customers are going to go buy a lot of these prepaid cards. And everybody's thinking about drugs already, right? Because no, I learned all these things, right? After the manager comes out, and because I'm paying with a credit card. Oh, you know, this was in Westlake, you know, so they said, oh, it's okay. You can go ahead and pay and whatever, it'll be fine. And the manager authorized that I could buy the credit card with a credit card, okay? Well, it turns out that they stopped letting you buy credit cards in the US with credit cards because, besides the drug thing, for something for drugs or something they use them, but for money laundering. But Americans would go and buy a bunch of prepaid, they'd go to Walmart, buy $5,000 worth of prepaid Visa cards, pay for them with their credit card, call 5 minutes later say, oh, I got mugged or whatever, and they stole my card, and I didn't make those transactions. And I've got I don't know if I remember the bus, but I know somebody who, you know, was in Costa Rica, got really drunk, you know, bought everybody drinks, you know, $1,000 of drinks or whatever, you know. Everybody loved him, and the next morning, oh my God, what did I do? Like, he called, I lost my credit card yesterday, you know. And in the US, they believe you because the US is a country based, founded on trust. That you're not going to cheat. Yeah, and that's why you can say whatever you made to the IRS, and you have a 1%, 2% chance of being audited. Nobody, you know. And all those things are starting to get chopped off in the US because of idiots. And Latin America, everybody cheats all the time on all those things. So you got to have all these forms and all this. And still, you know, it's like.
And there's so much corruption.
Corruption is everywhere because I mean, I don't want to get into corruption, but you know, I mean.
You gotta be careful when you actually.
Dick Cheney, right?
I don't know for startups, but at least for well-developed corporations, it just becomes a headache.
Yeah, no, the compliance departments for big multinational corporations, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, it's really complicated. But as a startup, as a small person, you don't have to comply with anything in Latin America. Who cares? You know, you're corporate, right? That's very complicated. Compliance for. But as a startup, you can go in, you can do whatever you want, and until you become very big, they'll start bothering you. Yeah, it's too hard to chase you down. There's not enough people working for the local IRSs or the finance and everything. So it's not for small. I mean, for small entrepreneurs, it's not a problem at all those rules and everything. It's only for the big companies that it's a problem. Yeah, and yeah, they leave. We've had Central America's had exoduses of multinational corporations that just say it's not worth it. You know, we'll just centralize everything in Mexico, and you know, boom, you lose 5,000 jobs that worked for a factory or whatever. You know, because they'd rather just deal with one set of laws in one country, and then just ship the stuff to other countries versus having factories and everything. So, anyways, yeah, but did you get my point about the trust thing and everything? And it's getting better down there. It's getting upwards. You're suddenly starting to be able to. So I was in Guatemala last weekend. They let you pay for your car registration online now. You just print a PDF and you just keep it in your glove compartment. No sticker, no nothing anymore. I'm like, whoa, you know. Because it used to be such a pain. You know, they had holograms and there was all this fraud in terms of the sticker, you know. It was crazy because there's always corruption and everything, but it's getting better. It's getting better in Latin America. So we're coming towards the middle. The world is coming a little bit closer, inching closer to the middle. So let's try to keep the good things from the U.S., based on trust and all those things they're getting lost very quickly in the U.S., which is a problem. I don't know if it's, I don't know. Yeah.
Alrighty, guys,
I have one more.
You have one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, last question.
Hi, my name is Donovan. Can you expand on the keys to cultivate relationships? Because you had a lot of connections, and I think that it's kind of hard to sustain that. So can you talk about your keys of like do's and don'ts in the business world on how to cultivate so many people at the same time and not, making a mistake or not backlashing, or kind of what did you do that worked for you and what did you do that didn't work for you that maybe you can help us so that we don't make those same mistakes in kind of like cultivating like a large scope of influence or relationships.
Okay. That's a complicated question.
Sorry.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Just kind of like the do's and don'ts of like, for me personally, I'm always trying to find those keys where I don't make mistakes that I can prevent, that I kind of consciously, obviously, but my interest is to learn from you of how you kept, because business is relationship, it's about people, but I'm just curious to know, because you showed all of these companies that how do you keep that going.
I don't. I'm getting a strategy of companies that would be great clients for everyone, and I might be able to get into them, but things from the past and everything. I wasn't getting an idea. And I'd be happy to help. Try to trace somebody that I knew at Tigo, if they went on to Telefónica or America Mobile, and we'll try to pitch them and get the contact of somebody else. It's really easy with the Latin American people to just email somebody that is just a second degree. Ask, hey, can you introduce me? They'll introduce you very quickly. They'll write a nice email, and then you just have to say thank you, be thankful for the connections that you got and everything. Just normal common courtesy, I think. Don't really mind if people take it. You're never gonna. Not everybody's gonna become your friend, and don't worry too much about it. Is what I say. I've always wanted to write about how I do the social thing or whatever, but I just haven't been able to figure it out yet or sit down to do it. You asked a lot of really good questions. I gotta talk to you. You put me on the spot, but
I have an idea, something that might work for you. When you meet someone, pay attention to what they're saying, and if you remember that, and later on you have an idea that goes with that, email them. Because you don't have to email them every month but even if it's 3 years later, I remember that this was a subject that was to your interest, so I wanted to share it with you. Because that tells people that you were paying attention first, and then that you still remember them, and that makes synergy connect with people. I think that's.
I mean, here we have the advantage of LinkedIn, which allows us to at least index the relationship, right? And keep track of our contacts when they get promoted or when they change companies. That's completely different than it was 10 years ago, right? You had to keep track of all that manually, but now, I mean, using that, I still am somewhat flattered when some of my friends from UCLA call me or they follow up on any job change I make. They can see it, but they want to know. They want the personal interest, because they know what you're about. They know you're going to give your best. I think if you can take the time to acknowledge your peers or your colleagues' successes, they're always going to think of you. Like as soon as she said that, I think of this one guy from UCLA. He's very, very good about he doesn't want anything. He's not selling me anything. He's genuinely interested in my success. And that's one of the things about Prospanica. I always say, everybody in this room is for you. Everybody here wants you to succeed. And that's what I love about this organization. And if you are for your colleagues, your peers, your contacts, those relationships are going to flourish.
That's the best advice.
you answer your question. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
Tweeting James. Well.
Él tenía una pregunta, pero I know the last question.
After maybe we're gonna start.
Okay.
We need to wrap it up but we can continue the conversation outside the door. What about that?
Yeah.
Also, yeah. It's all about finding the solution, right? But I just wanted to say thank you so much. That was amazing. I learned a lot. I know everyone did as well. And if you want to see with Estuardo, let's continue the conversation outside. If you want to download the presentation, here it is. Write it down. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. We're always trying to make events in the community, connect people. Like James said, we're here for you and we want to help each other out. We're a community and Austin is a great place for that. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much again, and this is a little thank you gift from our organization.
Is it a check?
You'll see. And then Amanda has a quick announcement before we wrap it up. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, for y'all I haven't met, my name is Amanda Villarreal and I'm Executive Vice President of Prospanica. Y'all probably seen this, we have a bunch of flyers everywhere, but our next events, we have a happy hour at the end of July, and it is to kind of ramp everyone up for our 15th annual conference, which is the Texas Youth Conference. This year it's going to be at Concordia University on a Saturday, August 12th. and really exciting. We have some amazing speakers and workshops. Concordia University itself is kind of like a retreat-like campus, which is really exciting. I might have also gotten Mayor Adler to come by, so if you want to meet the mayor, it's a great way to come by and also just to learn more about our organization. And y'all who aren't members, I know a few board members are around, so feel free to talk to us and we can get you involved. Prospanica went through a rebrand recently, so some people are just getting used to the name again, but we're almost a 30-year-old organization, 30,000 connections across the nation, which I think really makes us stand apart from a lot of different organizations in Austin. And we're happy to talk, and I'm glad y'all came to Capital Factory. One more thing, there's an after party for Div Inc., which is an amazing company that's out of Capital Factory at CU29 after this, which is a bar across the street. I'm gonna be there. I hope you guys can join me. But anyway, you guys mingle, there's a ton of food, and hope to see you next time.
If anyone parked underneath the building in the garage, come see me for a ticket. I'll give you a discount so that way you don't have to pay $100. But it'll be $5 for parking. So thank you everybody for coming. Appreciate it.
Yeah, party tickets. Vouchers.
No, no worries. No worries. I thought it was pretty good. Yes, sir.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Good seeing you as well.
How are you?
And if not before, I'll see you.
My name is James
Hey, Los Angeles area? Right.
well, yeah, actually,
You mentioned UCLA.
oh, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, I went to the Latino Leadership Institute.
Do I need you to give you anything?
And then that's a gift. But they're how about you? Okay. 4 years ago. Yeah, so I used to have a team in Irvine, Costa Mesa, so I'd go over there. I didn't get it. So what do you do?
The reason I asked that is because I created a company. So I had an opportunity to expand the business, and at the time I was working for big Thomas, and my boss was really going to put on for her to generate myself a deal manager. So I wanted to do something where I time helping homeless entrepreneurs with the digital studio, and that's what the business is. So not only am I doing the paper comic, but I'm also doing a digital animated version. I have an app, a website. I am developing a system where dentists will advertise. Then they will sign applications for a program. So the kids will pay on an app, their game on the website.
I come across a lot of history of our business partners.
And there's a gamification where I think it's a part of the program. It's hard. Sign up as paid for, and then the kids will play the games and earn points, and then redeem those points for prizes when they go back to the business. So it's a way to engage kids and get them to learn also to live all of those different things with comic and characters. Because each of the characters has a lot of depth. This is a digital perspective. It's each have a different medical code that's progressive, and it's social or behavioral. So practically,
But yeah, I mean, depends on, that's all. Anyway, continuing the session.
And it's beneficial for kids. As far as it'll be that's why I came to see about
Something about the city being so much like so I think, you know, like our
Oh, you guys have to come.
I want to do something like and like have a house.
Put this in my car.
We keep these flyers for the happy hour.
I mean, it doesn't have the Dow logo, but it's fine. We'll have the Dow logo on everything. We'll have the Dow logo on everything. One of the things I was going to tell you, so I don't know.
Oh, what part? Oh, God. Rough city. I've been. It's rough.
For kids, right?
We're definitely.
Yeah, so it's basically you just, you know, like, you need, so you get this stuff.
Who's helping you do the
My daughter's
You just email like jobs and people like that. And a lot of people are like,
no, I don't do like some big complicated website where you tell people that
this was stuff. Yeah, this is
it just makes people go, I don't fit that. You know, it just
It needs to be 1, 2, 3 quick.
so I've got it instead, it's just like really beautiful, really simple, it has a quote about art and that's it. So yeah, I'm changed because I'm not an e-commerce right now, but I'm starting some courses, starting to develop.
Wonderful. Yeah. Talk to you. I know, right? It was like, I need something from you. What is it? You never know when you're gonna like, you're so funny. Wow.
Bizarre voices. He's homeless and has people.
Almost.
Texas legal. I know. I mean, they'll, if they RSVP, then they see the rating.
Dropped out of school. He doesn't know how to
The happy hour one does.
He invents a sugar base instead of something.
29, like 20 minutes, don't feel it anymore. Yeah, I'll text it to them.
Yeah, text it there, text it there.
Because this is making it more interchangeable. It's based on data. Sugars are addictive. Fructose corn syrup, people are so it literally provides.
So that's for comics, and you got the business magazine. How does the business model work for comics? You guys hire your business, or can they be sponsored?
So, I'm doing a paper comic, but I'm also doing that digital animated version.
Dude, you've already got that
No, this isn't mine, this is an article-based thing, so I'm gonna do the same thing.
Okay.
So with digital, anybody can know. Of course, you're gonna pay, you know, security price in order to be able to But what's so awesome about this being entertainment and educational, it's just a matter of changing the language. It can be used anywhere in the world. So doing the voice acting and the that Spanish students get better language.
This thing is already so ready. Medical association is ready to whatever. Just go through that anyway.
And then the last to do is the new technology.
That was what, a burger or stripes and that's it.
They will get private what's going to happen is they're going to go into long-term education. A kid gets on the website and all that, they play their games, study our curriculum, use our system, earn points, and next time they go back for an interest, they're going to get points. So it incentivizes them brushing, flossing, doing some new things. Being a good person, and they get rewarded. So it ties in all the stuff.
I remember had current phase that had last phase last phase had this page. Later. Chilenos, pero en México son reviews en México. Colorito movies just came out.
Yeah, I saw it in a movie theater at being advertised. I don't know if it's probably playing right now or playing the movie. So yeah, man, I like this. It's really well thought out. You already got a lot of money. You mail the original artwork to yourself. And you never open the envelope. We do a lot of those copies. I get one first copy.
That's how it works.
You do this? Because you're looking at there's a problem, and somebody says they might have to report it. You can report, and you open it up. Post, because it's postmark. You go to the post office, they put the, so you can do a lot of those, and then you can always put it in your first contact.
I know that. I try to keep short. The thing is, I'm not very technological. I'm learning,
Look at all the stuff you're already doing. Email me, I'd love to talk more about it, man. Congratulations, dude. Alright, then, cool again, no? That's so cool, yeah. ¿Qué onda? ¿Te gustó la charla, Gabriel? ¿Te gustó? Ah, bueno.
It's incredible.
Gabriel, si tengo que ir al baño, ¿te puedo dar eso? ¿Te gustó la charla? ¿Sí? ¿Ah? La fiesta.
But, you know, most of our countries, so many, so, you don't
There was a really cool video. There was a Kickstarter campaign. I tried to, but there's a really good video on there that explains the system of keys and vintages and how
You're doing like wellness.
I used to do it and that was my home. My social media.
Is that your card?
Well, I was, you know, I'm a digital marketer.
You're a lot of
That's the we live, right? That's the country we live in, right? It's just like, you cannot make money.
So, I mean, how do I get
Well, basically,
This would be
like being a member or like being in the group.
advertising for real professionals.
Yeah, sure, that would be
How you doing? Good.
A little hungry right now.
All right, well, that'll work. This is a good place to be if you're hungry. Were you at the job fair thing over there? Good.
I don't care recall them.
This came from school, actually.
Oh, yeah?
You guys,
Texas State?
Like it.
I think it's, we have a kid here who's like the president of some Hispanic student organization at Texas State, so the front row.
I
I'm in the business school.
Are you?
My information system.
All right. Yeah, well, when we get down there, we center so much on Austin, we don't get down to San Francisco.
I've tried to get here.
Yeah, but your background is.
So the background is,
Okay, okay. So you go back to
I go back to Old Paso to run our online business, but
I want to send this to next year.
thank you. So I'm working on a couple things now, when I
I just looked to see what was
I'm
going
working
on.
online, and
And I saw that this was
I'm here for the next 2.5 weeks, right? I'm just like working on it, but that's my time.
If I can, at this point, I can get the good magazine going.
And this is awesome because
The Dill magazine is pretty fun. And then so there's money to be made.
I don't believe in planning digital marketing, but I do it.
Yeah, it's
So you learn a lot of skills.
Still be awake or what?
So on Facebook, I had seen, what's the way that social media? I had seen Capital
So it's very similar, but
Still Capital Factory. I went and toured,
oh yeah, like our next event is happy hour.
Oh my god, I do have hours right now, but I have to drink water. So I'm just like, it's, I mean, even in South by.
so I'm thinking, so I'm saying, I was like,
So who sponsors us? So Capital Factory is us.
if I can get.
I'm actually relations, so I have involved companies.
I was not, me it's either
Texas Farmers,
I can't do happy hours.
we have IGC.
That's why,
You know what happened though, is that.
This is.
Oh yeah,
So I emailed.
It's not like you like, well, it's the business.
I heard that exchange lawyers and
Yo creo que sí.
So we did basically MBA. They're also like partners. It's like no, they get more I don't lose.
oh yeah,
And then this is. It's a little fun too.
I've never had.
That's
okay. Thanks for being here. But anyway, so corporations will have diversity in their company. Like at IBM, we have Hispanics partnerships. We have popular market. There's no running that are rich, self-identified, that are active. And so, they identify so they get leadership role. So I know that
now that I
employees, and that's what our sponsors do. It's hard to but what I like having just facility,
but she owns an event company, and I'm pretty sure.
What do you do? I'm the executive sponsor for software as a service, private cloud.
Alright man, take care.
I'm working on the applications. I haven't turned it
It's pretty good, right? Because I love
about $20,000 deal. Because I'm pretending and all the papers at the team levels, I do have some protection. I need to do it all.
Todos están mandando screenshots de lo que salió.
Realized like we had just a Master of Science versus the FCA. So kind of like, what, like, you know, so it's really my FCA. So what do you say?
Well, actually, let's see. The only real difference is, I'm kind of busy. My daughter was in the same situation.
No, mentira,
La chava gringa se comenzó a cagar de la risa, ¿verdad?
It kind of depends on.
Los mexicanos te amaron.
But I will tell you this.
Sí, 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 es un nuevo amigo.
I was going to say,
Y no,
credibility
bonito, ¿no? O
purposes.
sea, eso es lo bonito, son que le dan obviamente 5 personas.
Exactly.
Y gracias a vos por llegar a una chava.
What do you say?
Tenés la personalidad, el engage, divertido, sabes un montón, que la gente estaba así como que... Porque hay mucha gente no, pero, o sea, pero la manera en que explica hasta alguien que no sabe lo que entiende, porque dibuja el pone como punto, da ejemplo, y hace eso.
Eso que solo voy a meter a un slide a la side.
Y al final,
Otherwise, it doesn't.
exacto.
It's gonna be like,
Ella sí está hablando, vos sabes, el
certification, they make it a lot.
dos corazones, esa es la ella hablando. Dos corazones.
I'm heading out. Pleasure meeting you, of course.
No, pero yo soy efectiva, pero
Well, in person, yeah, I mean, it's the $30.
Buenísimo, qué buena onda, que me escriban y todo. Bueno,
The text, it's on the 28th, right? The Texas leave is August 12th. Oh, I won't be in town.
Sí, tú, son súper buenos hablando, tenías razón ahora, porque yo
I won't be in
me
Denver. We'll do another professional.
So yeah, this gives you fresh, yeah, mágica, pero
Some of the other organizations.
Okay. Yeah, I'm posted on Facebook, so we can.
Totalmente.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck in your business.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks. Valeria.
Yo te conecto, que se llama Verónica, mi amiga. Pero mira, cualquier cosa, recordame si yo hago un día que el lunes. Entonces te voy a mandar lo de Verónica para darte la info.
Sí, 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 me parece.
I can name drop. I feel like
No ways that I feel like I just.
I watched it. It's so good.
Sí, pero después.
Que viene siendo el 9. No, se voy a estar, se voy a estar. Sí.
La vez pasada tuvimos una plática seria, ¿verdad? ¿No te acuerdas? Yo creo que ya no estamos teniendo la charla.
Bueno, pero yo no la hice, la idea no hubiera venido, para que
Thanks, you guys. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm excited to connect with you.
Yeah, I hope you guys email me.
Yeah, I have some friends that have they're ready to get started.
What's the name of the company? What's their name? Okay. They're an IT. I probably know them because I work for an IT company down there. That's small.
So they have a business that goes into El Salvador. They first trip to El Salvador. It was scary.
Took a bunch of guys.
You take
drive the guys into El Salvador. Did they drive you there?
Yes.
Yes. It took a bunch of gringos.
So we had the fake mom. In case you got stopped. An armed guard.
No, you don't need an armed guard. Those guys exaggerated. You don't need an armed guard.
Well, they were all over the street. It's protected. I was good. I didn't really feel it because
And there's all these shotguns everywhere, but they never go off.
Right.
You got these guards
I used to be a
everywhere.
Marine, so I can handle it, right? But it was just like, from a business perspective, it's kind of shocking. But it's the same thing in Brazil. We don't used to go anywhere without English.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. They just don't let me. Okay, it's my life, that makes her happy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so you work for every company, so they don't. Yeah. The exposure of losing a guy down there was too big, you know. I don't want to mention that, but it's one of the main reasons that they actually leave is that shell left and all they took all the, they just left the gas stations there, but they took all the people that had working, they had a big shared service center that did all these orders from all over the world, because they had these really good accountants over there that did all this stuff that Americans couldn't do, Filipinos couldn't do, but there was a few years that it got pretty violent. When it was bad in Mexico, it was kind of bad over there too. You know, 2009, 10, and all that stuff, the Zetas and all that stuff that happened. And they said, you know, they shoot some executive from the company. Imagine the exposure, the problems. We'll just close the office just because of that. Because of the fear that something might happen to one of their employees. You know, in a piece of crap country like photography. It's crazy how delicate it is because all those jobs and all that know-how. All those great things that were being done there. There was a huge, I would use that office as a showcase to other companies. Look, you can do 10 largest companies in the world. Use this one for value added shit, you know, for stuff. You know, it doesn't have to be India. It doesn't have to be fancy. And we lost it because of the security.
When I was doing security support, we bought it and use those guys as costs. Like 5% anyway, I think they're still there. They treat you like family. Because that's the culture. You know,
it's no longer rebels. It's now it's gangs. So there's it's police with the gangs and.
They gradually.
Well, they've changed it. Now it's civil. It's not war. It's not military armed raid. It's civil now. It's not civil, but it's police. It's crime and gangs and all the guys who used to be in the militias became gang leaders. You know, things like that. A lot of them, not all of them, but peace was signed. What job are they going to get if they only know how to shoot? So they become part of organized crime. It's a problem. Same thing, but it's different. It's not a war zone anymore. Not bad anymore. It's not. Yeah. Cool. No, I thought we know them. No names, whenever you remember it.
I'll look them up.
It's so tiny. Very cool. Vamos a echarnos tragos, ¿a dónde? ¿A qué bar?
Al del Italia 10 chico, entonces
pero aquel con sus preguntas. Muchas gracias para sí, como que te la puse así. No sé ni qué te pregunté. Es que cuando voy así, sale la pregunta. Estaba re bien todo. Y yo digo la pregunta y luego me dice, sí, just put me on the spot. And I was like, I didn't even see it.
Lo que pasa, al final me lo te lo pregunto como de tres maneras. Al final, la esencia era que cómo le haces para mantener los contactos.
En un momento habrá que tener contacto.
Yo el proceso es cuando le pregunto a una persona que te ayuda, cuándo es el momento de... O sea, tú sabes cómo entiendo que...
Is this going to be used for
Yo siempre he sido malo para saber cuándo conscientemente, tal vez subconscientemente te resuelve, porque representa tu personalidad para eso. Y también que
This isn't just for kids, it's for everybody.
Son un montón, pues, realmente solo hablo, ya, también.
Si no recuerdo si la realidad es que sí. Pero no recuerdo lo que
No, pero lo contestaste básicamente porque...
Bueno, manners, ¿eh? Y lo digo de época.
Sí, leíamos así que...
Zen Master. Zen Master.
Hasta tiene
Mucho gusto, yo me voy a pero mándame un mensaje y pasar algo.
¿Es un nombre rico? ¿Era Ellington?
Dono. Dale, bueno, gracias. Hasta luego.
¿Me escribes?
Agregar al LinkedIn en el nombre
Bajo Eduardo.
Estuardo. El evento sale su nombre, ahí lo buscan conectar.
Ah, ok. Bien, gracias, por favor.
Gracias, que
Y de hecho me estoy acordando.
Qué bárbaro, mano. Y me acuerdo que se fregó todo. Como que Sí, so how do you stay in touch?
Ya conoces a su esposa también, la estoy siguiendo.
Es lo mismo.
Okay, cool.
No tanta gente como esperábamos, pero estuvo bonito.
What happened was so obviously I heard this morning.
Pero y no, es jueves. Tráfico, ya jueves, como fin de semana y ya. Pero 25. Y el
Trying to get it more and trying to campaign
Follow me on LinkedIn.
Es el equipo. If you were keep us preguntando, you're such a project manager. Yo estaba pensando el otro día, he's such a project manager.
Antes peor que yo.
No, obvio, pero es como las tres.
Although,
Yo sé, literal.
Bueno, Angie, la estás siguiendo. Sí, está chula.
Hi Nancy, happy 4th of July.
Yeah. Well, but maybe you can
a little bit more simple.
and share it with him.
Sorry to interrupt.
¿Ya me escribiste? ¿Vas a ir a la fiesta? ¿Qué?
No, yo
No, yo me voy mañana.
Yo creo que esa chica bastante
That website.
que todo el mundo
You can, yeah.
There's a.
yo le digo,
No.
conocimos en Facebook,
No, por
sí,
$5.
obviamente. Entonces,
$5.
usted no se la sabe, le cuenta rápido. Pues,
$6.
de Facebook, de nosotros tenemos que porque él tenía un diario. Y yo le di like a la página y él vio que yo le di like y él miró
Gabriel
que
will probably take something.
que el amigo en común era un primo de él, que yo le conocí en la universidad. No sabes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Y él cuando vio, me escribió, ¿conoces a mi primo? ¿Cómo lo conoces? Y viviendo en
So right now to get us all over. We have my email right here. Please email me.
¿Te acuerdas? Ajá. Y bueno, por el Chuy es que somos
I had a.
me dice, no,
So I wanted to bring these characters to the days and put something else. I get a bad novel.
y así fue que nos yo soy
On Park Avenue, and
feliz de conocer a Mario.
I grew up on 33rd Street,
Sit up there and I'm
Columbia originally.
They were
That's when I'm
Yeah,
on Wall
yeah.
Street.
It's just a matter of
My mother
Y así
was
fue.
on Wall Street, part of
El mundo es un huevo. Esa es la
I
moral
like
de
it. I
la
like
historia.
it. You're gonna be successful. Very cool.
came here by,
Good deal.
because she got the bigger job.
So yeah, we'll talk, man. We'll talk. You're not in Austin, right? You're in
Ah,
Corpus, right?
Marqués
Okay,
es
well, we'll talk. We're gonna Corpus. Try to go.
Parece que te va bien.
I try to go to Singapore, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Ay, yo estaba buscando
maybe we,
And so, I got
if
a job.
if I have an excuse to go see you or something, I'll go more often for the rest of
I
the
need a job.
something like that.
Guys, thank you for coming.
That's funny.
Do you need more food?
You want to
Usted ha comido, ya comió suficiente. Lleve más. De ahí para llevarse a la casa. Lleve a la casa, por favor. No se quede ahí. No, hombre. No, bota comida en la casa. Primero arregle mi casa. No te levantas de la mesa hasta que te comas todo. For life. Así que si se quiere ir a su casa sin fe, en su casa.
¿Tenés mi correo, verdad?
Y usted vino por medio de WhatsApp.
They had a company here in
Me acaba de contar, me dieron 3 días.
15 years ago.
¿Y cuánto tiempo se va a quedar?
You remember?
Tiene ayudar a su chico, a tu papá.
It's like the Geek Squad.
¿Cómo
They don't really know that much. Just how, you know, remove viruses. Most people don't know, right?
Los dejaron una semana.
Your house takes your Wi-Fi. They got one, yeah. I'm gonna put the, I'll have your card again. So you've been here for a while, okay, so.
Alright, well,
I
thank
used to
you.
be in 1970, I used to heard the Extreme Network story, right? So I don't know all about that, but I. Oh, more?
Y ahí,
It's okay. You can take more. So,
bueno, una organización.
you gonna go drink or no? Like a party, it's like a reception. Like a bar, I don't know.
National Society of
There's like 4 streets though around this building. There's a church in this one and this one. There's an office building in this one and then.
Va cambiando. Entonces decidieron, la organización, lleva 30 años, cambiar el nombre a Prospanica para incluir a todo el mundo nosotros. Porque para hacerlo más inclusivo, exacto, para hacerlo más inclusivo. Y lo cambiaron el nombre el año pasado. Y yo como me involucré en la historia es que todo es así, ¿no? Todo estamos haciendo yo me mudé a Austin sin conocer, o sea, conocemos a dos pelados, pues, pero no conocía a nadie, yo me mudé sin trabajo, yo dije voy a Austin sin trabajo, voy a ver qué onda.
¿Qué Guatemala?
Algo encuentro. Y entonces yo empecé a ir a un montón de eventos a conocer gente, tipo este cuando. Yo me metía así, en internet y yo, ¿dónde me voy hoy? A ver, para conocer gente porque yo no conocía nada. Y yo decía, es que digo, yo hice
Very common. You either go drink with you like crazy. They will say,
si solo hago eso,
I haven't
no
had
puedo
a drink in 7
conocer
years.
jamás. Entonces yo dije, bueno, that's the way to do it. Y así empecé a conocer gente y ellos, Prospanica, este evento ya lleva 15 años, o sea, es como nuestro evento más grande. Y antes de conocer un evento, me mandó
They still have
un
dudes in
frico
Playboy
para
in Mexico,
donde
Amazon, everywhere. It's just in the US where they don't have them.
Really?
como que, hey, mira, te conocí, like, este evento va a
You didn't hear this?
bastante gente.
The last
Vale
issue of Playboy
que
was
vale,
new.
o sea, vale como $30.
Was
Y yo,
was about 2 or 3 years ago in the US.
porque, like, no salía trabajo,
Playboy no longer has girls.
y bueno,
girls.
fui, yo no
In the
sé
US.
cómo terminé
And a lot of countries.
cenando con todos los no me preguntes cómo terminé.
I know. You guys see your Playboy on Pornhub.
Y yo terminé,
That's the reason
no sé
why
cómo, pero yo era
they
así como,
stopped doing
¿qué
it.
estoy haciendo aquí? Pero yo estoy
There's
aquí.
so much content out there that.
Y bueno, obviamente después de
So now Playboy is
cenar, horas
editorial. It's like
pasamos,
a
yo no sé cuántas horas pasamos después.
Like
O sea,
Maxim or...
like Maxim, yeah.
5 horas
That's the
después
one
de
I was trying to
fuimos a
think of.
cenar, fuimos al hotel de uno de los speakers, así,
And they were about
tomando.
articles and content.
Y obviamente después de
But-
5 horas uno hace un bonding y es como que, hey, mira, no querés ser parte de
Google it. It's
yo
insane.
veniste de uno de los reuniones,
I remember
a ver si te parece.
I went around
Queremos que sería
calling the Barnes and Noble
para
saying, do you have a
grupo.
let's play ball? We haven't got
Y
any.
yo,
I can't figure out.
a uno
And
de
I
los
this time
reuniones.
I'm getting the last one. I don't have any
Y el
Playboys,
grupo
but I
obviamente
just
yo
want to buy
ya
that
había
one.
hecho una conexión, un evento anterior y me encantó. Y yo siempre he sido
Yeah, that was like 2 or 3 years ago.
involucrada en la
I
comunidad,
remember I called up the Barnes and Noble
grupo,
agent.
ayudando. Y dije, perfecto,
No, we haven't done
latinos,
it yet, you know.
profesionales,
Then I just forgot and
ya es una
missed out on-
organización bien estable, o sea.
I do have one that I had on my
démosle,
mom
pues.
by
Y así fue que
Colombia,
entré.
because she was connecting on flights.
Bueno,
And
oficialmente
it was,
casi
it's not Playboy, but it's a
unofficially
Colombian.
yes, porque fue como desde agosto del año pasado que los conocí y prácticamente desde ahí empecé, pero
And it
oficialmente
was a
con
special
título
edition for the peace
hasta
sign.
enero porque fue el cambio de
So they had
de
a
directivo,
former,
ajá, del board. Entonces,
Really?
oficialmente enero,
a former
pero no
military
oficial como agosto
officer,
septiembre.
both beautiful girls,
Y así fue.
female, you know,
Entonces la
military and
misión
insurgent.
de la
And they both
organización
did
es
The spread, huh?
empoderar a los
and
latinos
an article
profesionales
and everything
a
together.
que
You know,
alcancen su
Wow.
but we very, very clean, you know, but, you know, I mean, it was like selling the summer piece or whatever. So famous, it was everywhere, worldwide, people were,
porque
you know,
también
reading
trabajamos
it.
con
So my mom was going to Bogota and I told her that she was so mad because I didn't tell her.
diferentes tipos de eventos.
You were making me buy this
The
lady at the magazine stand was saying that I was
la
probably,
mayoría,
raping girls or whatever.
pero tienen diferentes objetivos. Este era enfocado en emprendimiento y educar a la gente sobre emprendimiento en Latinoamérica.
I thought I was gonna come and set a class.
Hay otros que son más
Like they usually come,
para los
like in the
estudiantes.
bag.
Entonces juntamos a las
If you wanna know
universidades
what it was about.
locales y tenemos también como,
Right here with a photo of the cover. Just buy me this magazine and any magazine
como
stand
empresas
at the
buscando,
airport, at the Bogota airport.
reclutando. Entonces
Because that's where they sell the
hacemos
magazines, right?
fair.
Airports.
Entonces eso es para gente que está buscando trabajo.
Yeah.
Ajá. Ah, no, ese era otro evento. Pero hacemos algo, ajá, pero hemos hecho cosas
You
parecidas.
too, man. Mucho gusto.
Entonces el objetivo de los eventos cambia. Entonces hay unos que son solo happy
I look
hour.
forward to it.
Good luck, man. We'll be in touch. Okay, please email me, okay? I have your postcard too, okay?
Otros son
Thank you.
resume y le damos el resume y cosas así.
Pues sí, mano.
Entonces depende de... ¿Qué onda? ¿Vamos por trago o what?
Vamos, sí, sí.
Sí.
Vamos.
See you 29, hay un after party.
Vamos, solo que no sé dónde es, pero vamos.
No, aquí podemos ir caminando.
Vamos caminando, vamos.
After. ya sabe usted como los latinos, pues. Al after, del after. El pre, el party, el after, el desayuno.
Recalentados.
Si quiere más, agarre con confianza. Si tiene hambre, por favor. Brownie, de todo.
Gabriel,
Si
si
quiere
quieres
más
llevar algo,
comida,
para
sí, va
llevar.
con confianza. Ya quedó hasta aquí.
Ya está aquí. Muchísimas gracias. Oh, cocinaste delicioso.
Ay,
Me salió riquísimo.
Un platillo,
qué rico. De nada. Es que me pasé toda la
Me pasé
noche.
toda
Me
la
pasé
noche
toda la noche.
pues. Llevémonos unos pollitos y tal vez, bueno, ya sándwiches ya.
Sí, para que el trago no te pegue después. No te pegue el trago.
Está bueno.
Vamos a cargar.
Ah,
Están
ese no.
deliciosos, mira,
Pero
ese
acá
está lleno.
está muy entre las dos también. Bueno. Bueno, espero que.
Lo próximo vamos a ir a comer pollo hoy en la noche.
Sí, mucho.
¿Cómo se dio cuenta? Por internet. ¿No te lo vio?
Creo que lo vi en Austin, estaba.
group
Oh.
o en different brand. Cualquiera.
O en los dos.
O en, creo que Fernando,
Bueno, sin
Oh,
duda.
en Twitter, él lo compartió.
creo
Yo
que
miré.
lo compartió.
Sí,
Que estaba
sí.
tratando, decía que iba a venir hoy, pero no lo vi.
Sí, un montón de gente se arrojó al final. Como el Eduardo, un pero ya sabemos cómo es el Eduardo. Si Eduardo cree en la mitad. Y la otra mitad.
Eso no hay que creerle nada.
No, pero seguro él sabe qué pasó.
Ahí fue donde
¿Qué pasa?
Me dio hueva así en Steiner Ranch.
Tal vez eso. ¿Y él trabaja por allá? ¿Su oficina?
Sí.
no está tan lejos.
No, pero el tráfico a esa hora es.
Bueno, sí. Una hora antes hay que salir.
El tráfico se pone pesado. ¿Ustedes no se quieren llevar esto a su casa? No, ahí queda. Ellos se van a encargar.
Si vienen de limpieza y ese.
Sí, no, y eso no se desperdicia. Créame que no.
No se desperdicia, seguro. Acuérdate, en los Estados Unidos toda la basura.
No, ya saben.
Vienen de limpieza porque nos tocó la semana pasada y quedaron pizzas. Y me lo estaban dando y le dije a la limpieza, ¿las quieres? Oh, sí, déjala así. Okay.
Sí, así siempre. Ahí ellos.
Le llevan felicidad a la casa.
Sí, completamente. ¿Usted viene bastante? ¿Usted vive bastante? ¿A Estuardo?
Sí, vengo mucho aquí a la Capital Factory y estoy más activo en un grupo que se llama Hispanic.
Ya sé. ¿Vos sos hacker? ¿Vos sos developer?
No mucho.
Haces la marca.
Muy poquito. Tengo un sitio web, lo modifico.
¿Tienes tu tarjeta?
Meto mucho la nube de Google. Tengo un negocio de computadoras en México. Y...
Es como el emprendedor del que andaba hablando hoy.
El que presenta el PTM, como decimos en Nicaragua.
Tengo...
Sí.
PTM para todo. Para toda M. Perfecto, gracias.
Supe a ver la oportunidad y aprovechar lo que yo sabía. Y entonces empecé a exportar equipos de cómputo a México, a Chiapas.
Vamos, sí, llevemos.
Y ahora pienso
Lo metemos al carro.
exportar artesanía.
Que nos acompañe a leer el carro.
Voy al baño, chicos. ¿Nos vemos a dónde? ¿Aquí o afuera? Afuera. Aquí afuera. Ya esto. Hey girl, please get food. If you want to take home, bring your friends.
I'm actually gonna start clearing out, if that's okay.
Yeah, there's no one. Yeah, clear out. Please don't throw it away though.
So
Give it to
no,
someone. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's the only concern we have.
Do
No.
you guys not want to take a planner? Like maybe
No.
take it to the homeless shelter or something?
Do whatever you want with it. Just don't throw it away.
Podemos sacarlo así.
You wanna, if si lo que es estar ahí a los otros eventos que tienen gente todavía.
Bueno.
Ah, qué buena idea, sí. Qué buena idea. Está lleno de gente afuera. Está lleno.
Sí, por eso están comiendo.
Y
hay mucha comida.
Ah, también hay comida.
Ahorita le pregunto.
Pero no dijiste vos de que
se lo llevan
Se lo lleva la-
barra y mañana
Sí,
todo.
pero
Yo
es
creo que lo voy a
así.
meter al refrigerador
Demasiado.
como de todo el Centro Factory.
Bueno, aquí nada más
Uy,
da la
así
vuelta
que
y
vuela
no sé
todo en
cuántos
2 segundos.
Mañana.
No, mañana lo pones afuera y eso se va en 2 segundos.
Estoy de acuerdo.
Éxito. Además que todo es súper estar rico lo voy a meter.
Hay un rato no metí una Twitter, no sé cmo darle reply a esto.
Yo hoy te estuve tweeting.
Corazón, ¿qué es este corazón?
Corazón, ¿quién te tuiteó corazón?
Bueno, ¿y hace cuánto empezó Prospanica?
Ya te cuento, pero necesito el baño.
Ok.
How are you? Good, just finished. I just finished live tweeting and for today, I had 4 rosés. That was cool.
And 4 rosé.
Yeah.
I realized you were drinking with your concussion.
Hey, where's the alcohol? Outside?
Over there.
Ah!
There was
Okay.
a,
¿Qué es eso, Valeria?
Ah, fue al baño.
Ah, ok.
I don't know if they're still there, but they only have like pale ale left and a few things.
Pale ale. Oh my god, so good.
Let's see. I'm not looking forward to taking up that risk carrots.
¿Pero ustedes son de Prospanica también o son de Cap Factory o de...?
No, yo de Capital Factory, ella también.
Ah, qué cool, ok. Buena onda.
Pero no sé, estoy esperando que me digan que...
Todo.
Ay, no sé qué hacer, pero bueno.
Nosotros ya hicimos nuestra parte, estamos llevándonos esto para casa, todos los platos.
Do you want to take a plate home? I was, but my roommates aren't deserving. Why don't you give this to your roommates? I know my roommates are going to want a plate. I'm going to make them a plate.
We're waiting for Valeria, right?
I'm supposed to like, make that.
¿Dónde van a estar?
We're supposed to wait outside.
¿Dónde van a estar?
They need this thing.
Oh, Capital Factory is kicking us out.
Jajaja.
Thank you.
Very much for
No, de que buenas noches.
Gracias, buena onda,
Okay,
muchachos.
good time.
Yeah. Where were you at the presentation?
No, I
You were at
was,
the Rosés, yeah. Okay, yeah.
I was at both events, I was at the Rosé.
Well, no, do they record the live streaming or no?
Yes. It was live stream, yeah,
So Sam, okay.
yeah, Sam.
So I remembered that, you know, the rise of entrepreneurship was detonated with the 2009 financial crisis, and it was also the time that Capital Factory was born out of the financial crisis because those, I can't remember, I don't know the details, I just remember that the penthouse was available at the Omni. They gave it to Josh for, like, they gave him a really good deal for him to see what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
And that was the crisis is what made sort of, and him, of course, but you know.
Be there at the right time.
Well, yeah, you know, but so, and we were talking about how angels and all this stuff that happened in Latin America and everything. I was saying what happened with the financial crisis because.
Yeah, I'm thinking about becoming an angel investor when I get older.
Yeah, I'm trying to become one since I think a long time ago.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll be with you soon.
Well, I'm still not there.
Yeah.
Very cool, yeah, okay.
What is Prospanica?
Hey, you know, I really finally found out about them better today.
Okay.
But they're Hispanic. It's a lot of professionals. They're working for big companies,
Right.
and it's a lot of students actually that are Hispanic that are in business classes, like in business school and stuff like that. Because I saw a lot of college kids, and I saw a bunch of older exec type, professionals, and I guess this talk was about entrepreneurship because they want to meet more entrepreneurs and be more entrepreneurial. Some of them want to leave their jobs or whatever or whatnot. So I guess they support each other, yeah. But they got chapters everywhere. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, there's one at UT, the LEA. Really? Yeah.
There's something like they're like a spin-off of Nashimbo, which used to be the MBAs, Latinos. I used to go to a lot of those events. Huge events. They were a lot of fun. Nashimbo.
Yeah, I started my own nutrition program for children, and it took off.
You?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's through Enactus. It's another entrepreneurial program at the business school.
Cool.
Yeah,
So you're at McCombs right now?
Yeah, one more year.
Undergrad? Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be an undergrad at McCombs.
Great major.
Marketing, international business minor.
Nice.
I didn't want to do any studying, so I just did marketing. Are you doing marketing too?
Yeah.
I regret not having done finance. I should have done finance, but then I would have, who knows?
Marketing and advertising and UX design.
You're doing that? Cool. I like you.
I like
Yeah. You don't want to. You don't want to do all that math and all that crap they make you learn at the business school. It's horrible.
So we need to take finance statistics
God, it's
too.
terrible. Statistics, I already did it. You're in the final year. Yeah? Okay. Statistics, I hate it. Okay, cool. Mean queen, I like it, okay. Well, I was so excited to come to I didn't bring any cards, but I'll email you, okay?
Awesome, sweet.
Okay, thank you.
Entonces, ¿qué onda?
Hey, Valeria, she's the one from Prospanica. She's the one who invited me.
¿Es de nosotros? ¿Qué onda?
No sé, no tengo idea.
When do you help? Can I speak Spanish? Ayudar. You need to teach me Spanish. My mom tries so hard. Actually, I do speak Spanish, but only to my grandmother. I don't know why, but when she speaks to me in Spanish, I understand and I speak back, like whole sentences, paragraphs. But if someone else speaks to me, taking care of these. You're welcome. But if someone else speaks to me in Spanish, I don't understand it. Gotcha. So, trash bag?
Vamos a acompañar al carro a dejar unas cosas.
Let me think. Les habla de Santo Wijes. Donde sea que te fijes, mira.
Todas las sillas no subamos encima de la mesa. Vamos a poner los
Sí, siempre tratamos dejando aquí amontonadas en esta esquina. ¿Verdad?
Quería que le pedí como que me ayudara Gustavo.
Sí. ¿O la subió arriba? Bueno, yo siempre la he dejado aquí amontonadita. Y luego una parte allá quedó también. ¿Verdad? Es una pregunta que tengo.
¿Quiere que le ayude, señor Juan?
Sí, está bueno. Ahorita acabo a aquel lado de gente, ¿verdad? Vamos a tener que recoger todas las sillas.
Que no se van a ir hasta bien tarde, señor Juan.
¿Sí?
Diciendo, yo los oí que dijeron. El gringo le dijo a otra, no, ya vámonos, dijo, porque ellos se van a quedar hasta, dijo, hasta casi las 12.
Oh, sí.
Dijo, ellos van a quedar